Chapter 1789. The drug god and the others did not just stand there stupidly. When Yi Tianyun and the evil emperor started fighting, they immediately communicated with each other, planning to work together to use the combined formation. The combined formation's power could be said to be the greatest, but it required a very strong coordination ability. Under their constant adjustment, they finally managed to adjust a little at the critical moment, which allowed them to explode with a very strong attack, causing the evil emperor's crystal to crack and almost shatter. If not for the crystal's protection, it really would have pierced right through the evil emperor's body. Such a shocking power really frightened the evil emperor. He did not expect that a moment of carelessness would give the opponent an opportunity to take advantage of. Yi Tianyun took this opportunity to quickly escape, at the same time drawing energy from the sky to repair his body. But he lost one of the evil spirit's orbs, and his aura rapidly weakened. In the state of incomplete evil spirits, his power would be greatly reduced, and he would not be as strong as before. There was already a gap between him and the evil emperor, and now the gap was getting bigger and bigger. It seemed that it was impossible to attack him head-on. If he attacked head-on, there was only one possibility, and that was to be defeated. Next time, he would not be so lucky, and he would probably be stripped of all the evil spirit's orbs. If not for the drug god and the others working together to attack, he would have really taken all the evil spirit's orbs, and that would have been a mistake. Originally, he had taken all the evil spirit's orbs to prevent them from being taken away. Now that they had been taken away, it was a huge mistake. Who would have thought that the evil emperor still had such terrifying power? He could also completely restore his true form, and explode with the strongest power. Facing so many attacks and still not being injured, it was enough to see how abnormal the evil emperor's transformation was. Of course, if he did not use the evil spirit's orbs, then no one would be able to stop the evil emperor. Therefore, it was not that he wanted to release it, but that he had to use it. This power is too strong, even the evil spirits can't beat it. Yi Tianyun controlled the evil spirit puppet to quickly retreat, and came to the drug god's side, no longer daring to continue forward. After flying back, he said to the medicine god and the others, "Thank you for your help. If it weren't for your help, I would have been finished. Losing an evil spirit's orb was a mistake on my part. Alliance leader, don't say that. If it weren't for your help, we wouldn't have been able to deal with it, let alone complete this joint attack." The alchemy god and the others nodded and didn't blame Yi Tianyun. However, after a short sentence, he continued to prepare for the next attack. The first attack was a little out of practice, but it was different now. The second joint attack would definitely be more practiced, and the power would be even more shocking. This was the joint attack of more than 20 heavenly gods, and more than half of them were half-step god emperors. How could the joint attack be weak? If they worked together just a little more perfectly, even if evil emperor was covered in crystals, he would still have his defenses broken. Boom! At the next moment, they unleashed an even stronger attack. A thick divine light pierced through the darkness, tore apart the black blood formation's area of effect, and attacked evil emperor again. The heretical emperor's eyes narrowed, and he crushed the heretical god's pearl in his hand. A miserable shriek came from the heretical god's pearl, and then he stuffed it into his mouth and swallowed it. After swallowing it, his aura immediately increased by a notch, and the black crystals on his body recovered rapidly. At the same time, they became even darker, as though black gems were embedded on his body. If one were to look closely, it would be more like an unfathomable whirlpool that wanted to devour their souls. Evil emperor had become stronger. "Devour for me." Evil emperor slapped over with a backhand. The black crystals on his arm released a whirlpool, and it engulfed the joint attack that was charging over. Just as the attack touched the whirlpool, a portion of its energy was immediately devoured, and the devouring speed was rather fast. Not only that, the black blood formation in the sky was also mobilized by him, and it helped to devour the attack. As his strength increased, even his devouring power increased by a level, and he quickly devoured the attack. However, the joint attack was too powerful, and he couldn't devour all of it. But most of it was devoured, and the remaining hit his body. Being attacked by the energy, evil emperor didn't move at all, allowing the energy to hit his body. The black crystals on his body turned into whirlpools at the same time, and they started to continuously disperse and absorb the energy. In the process of absorbing, his body began to rapidly swell, and he soon swelled to twice his normal size. In the end, the energy was completely absorbed, and the result was that evil emperor swelled to twice his normal size. Let alone injuring him, it seemed like it was actually beneficial to him. A moment later, an evil aura emerged from behind him, and it rushed towards the black blood formation. This was a release of energy, so that the black blood formation could help him store it, and he couldn't absorb that much for now. Phew, your strength is not bad. I didn't expect that you could still counterattack in such a short time. It seems that I underestimated you. Evil Emperor let out a sigh of relief, and his body quickly returned to normal, and it seemed like he was fine. Their expressions changed when they saw this, but what shocked them even more was that the evil spirit's body was eaten. The part that was snatched away was the evil spirit's pearl that was sealed in his chest, and it was swallowed and absorbed just like that. If he hadn't absorbed the evil spirit's power to strengthen himself, that move just now would have definitely injured him. He actually ate the evil spirits, and even his own senior. Yi Tianyun's expression changed. He thought that evil emperor saved the evil spirits to remove the seal and save him. Now it seemed like that wasn't the case at all. Evil emperor had snatched them, and then consumed them to increase his own strength. Such a cruel method caused the expressions of the medicine god and the others to change. When he became ruthless, he would even eat his own companions. Previously, he had been full of respect and worship for the evil spirits, but now he was fearless and casually swallowed them. It was no wonder that when he revealed the bloodline of the evil spirit's descendants, evil emperor didn't hesitate to kill them. As long as they affected him, they deserved to be killed. You're worse than a beast, you even ate your own senior. The medicine god and the others couldn't help but curse, feeling that this was too cruel. Although they often fought here and there were casualties, they certainly wouldn't do such an unethical thing. What senior? Winner takes all. Since you've lost, why don't you just become my power? Evil Emperor licked his lips and said, I have to say, this is a great supplement. Hand over the rest, and I will leave your corpses intact. I won't devour you. Chapter 1790. He wanted to devour all of the evil spirits' bodies to increase his own strength. Just devouring a part of them had an obvious effect. At his level, there wouldn't be any effect if he didn't devour powerful existences. Unless there was a shocking amount and they all accumulated, he might be able to improve a little. What he wanted to devour the most was naturally this group of heavenly gods, as well as the evil spirits. Everyone's expressions darkened. If he really devoured all of them, wouldn't he be even more invincible? Just devouring a small portion had greatly improved him. If he devoured all of them, he would probably be even closer to the God Emperor level. Now, even Yi Tianyun could sense that the Emperor's cultivation had advanced. Although it was only a little, for his current cultivation, just a little more was already very frightening. It took a lot of effort for the alchemy god and the others to break through a little. Now, he only needed to devour a little more to take a step forward. How could it not be frightening? Again, they ignored the Emperor's words and once again gathered their strongest power to attack. The third time they worked together, their power increased by another level. They were all peak experts, so it was easier to communicate with each other when working together. Their control of energy was also very precise. Thus, they quickly familiarized themselves with each other's power. Although it was still a little lacking compared to the seal, as long as they could force the Emperor back, they would be the victors. The seal was created by the divine spirit race and the heaven creator race with all their blood and sweat, and the power it unleashed was even stronger. This was similar to martial arts. A combined attack was equivalent to a reincarnation-level martial art, and a combined seal was equivalent to a heavenly Tao-level martial art. There was no need to say which one could unleash the greater power. Another attack came, and the Emperor was clearly impatient. It's the same move again and again. Can't it be more refreshing? The Emperor didn't take the attack head-on. His figure flashed and he escaped the attack's lock, dodging to the side. With terrifying speed, he successfully dodged the attack and sprinted over. In an instant, he reached the nearest heavenly god, who happened to be the Sword Edge Region Master. The Sword Edge Region Master didn't panic. he turned his hand around and thrust out his strongest sword. The sword Qi, which was filled with boundless righteousness, slashed towards them and tore through the void. The evil emperor stretched out his hand and crushed the sword energy. At the same time, he grabbed the sword edge region master's arm and grinned, "Your attack is stronger than before, but that's all you can do." Before he finished his sentence, the sword edge region master's hand, which was holding the long sword, quickly shriveled up. At the same time, it was also sucked into his body. In the blink of an eye, it was almost sucked to his shoulder. The sword edge region master was decisive. His left hand turned into a palm blade, and with a quick swing, he chopped off his right arm. At the same time, he retreated. "Oh, interesting. You sure are straightforward." The evil emperor waved his hand, and the arm that had been sucked dry turned into a pile of ash and dissipated. The sword edge region master's face was pale, and he did not say a word. He had almost turned into cosmic dust and mixed with the void. The powerful sword edge region master was almost killed. It should be said that the evil emperor was being lenient. He wanted to devour all of them, so he wouldn't kill them in one strike. If he killed them, he wouldn't be able to properly absorb them. As for absorbing the energy, it was only when he couldn't escape that he forcefully absorbed it. Absorbing the attack energy did not have any effect on him. What was effective on him was naturally the blood and the purest energy in his body. The energy that was released would not have any effect on him. Only the blood and the pure energy of the planet were what he needed to devour. Otherwise, he would have killed them all at once, instead of sucking them dry one by one. Even so, the speed of his absorption was not slow at all. It was even very shocking. He crazily absorbed them all, and no one could stop him. Our combined attack can't even lock onto his aura. Their expressions changed. Previously, they had hit him twice, and they had successfully locked onto his aura. No matter how the other party tried to escape, it was useless. Now that they had successfully dodged it, it meant that the evil emperor's speed had already surpassed their lock onto him. Naturally, he could successfully escape. This meant that their attacks were no longer of any use. The power was strong, but if they couldn't hit him, what was the point? The evil emperor smiled coldly and rushed towards them again. This time, his target was not anyone else, but the evil spirit puppet. What he wanted the most was the evil spirit's pearl. Once he finished absorbing it, he would become even more powerful. At that time, it would be even easier to destroy the medicine deity and the others. The next moment, the evil emperor was in front of Yi Tianyun. His figure was like a ghost, arriving in front of him in the blink of an eye. He stretched out his hand and blocked the evil spirit puppet's escape route. He sneered and said, "This time, no one can stop me from killing you. After causing trouble for so long, it's time to end it." Yi Tianyun quickly controlled the evil spirit puppet to break through the seal, but his strength was far inferior to the other parties. How could he escape so easily? Just as he was about to escape, the evil emperor quickly grabbed his shoulder. At the same time, a suction force surged over, wanting to suck the evil spirit puppet dry. In that instant, the medicine deity quickly took out several 10,000-year-old spirit herbs, which turned into surging life force and rushed over. "Evil emperor, come and die." The medicine deity took out several 10,000-year-old spirit herbs to greatly increase his strength. At the same time, he was overdrafting his own strength. Now that things had come to this, he couldn't care less. No matter what, he couldn't let the evil emperor obtain the evil spirit's pearl. Boom. The surging life force also had a purifying effect. It purified the evil energy on the surface of the evil emperor's body. Even the pitch-black crystal had lost some of its luster. Under the power of several 10,000-year-old spirit herbs and even 100,000-year-old spirit herbs, the medicine deity had truly become a god, purifying everything. "Do you think you can stop me?" The evil emperor emptied his other hand and slapped it back, not fearing the medicine deity's attack. Boom! Black and green light collided, forming an energy wave that spread out in all directions. For a moment, the evil emperor couldn't hold on to Yi Tianyun, so he let go and was sent flying. Not to mention the evil emperor, even the evil spirit puppet was somewhat purified. The surface of its body became incomparably shriveled. The evil spirit race was not only afraid of the light attribute, but also life force. This was the opposite of their death attribute, so it also had a restraining effect. However, compared to the light attribute, it was still lacking. The level needed was still very high, otherwise it would be difficult to injure the evil spirit race. Chapter 1791. The fierce collision between the drug god and the evil emperor had injured the latter a little, but that was all. It didn't injure the evil emperor too much. It could be said that it was only a relatively minor injury, but the effect was not bad. At least the evil emperor was at a disadvantage. Correspondingly, the green light on the drug god's body also dimmed. It seemed that this attack had consumed a lot of his energy. To be able to forcefully summon so much power and cause damage to the evil emperor, it was not enough to just rely on restraints. He had to rely on more power to be effective. It was like a pile of flames. Even if water subdued fire, if there was only 1 or 2 drops of water, it would not be able to extinguish the flames. If the drug god wanted to achieve the effect of injuring the evil emperor, he had to greatly increase his power. The price he had to pay was certainly shocking. Otherwise, how could he explode with such power in such a short period of time? I didn't expect that your power could increase to this level. It really surprises me. The evil emperor looked at the drug god with some surprise, but that was all. After all, in this confrontation, the evil emperor's damage was limited, while the drug god's side was at a greater disadvantage. How many times could he use this level of attack? As long as the evil emperor continued to resist, the drug god would eventually be exhausted to death. Die. The drug god didn't waste time. He couldn't maintain this state for too long. He could only attack quickly without stopping. My power has increased, but it's still far from enough. The evil emperor smiled coldly. His figure was like a ghost, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He didn't attack the drug god, but continued to grab the evil spirit puppet. The evil emperor knew that fighting the drug god head-on would not have a good result. It would only be a waste of time. If Yi Tianyun controlled the evil spirit puppet and left, then he would suffer a great loss. The most important thing right now was to increase his own power. When the time came, he would ruthlessly crush them. Don't run. The drug god missed and immediately turned to chase the evil emperor. If he continued to be delayed like this, the first to collapse would definitely be himself. The evil emperor didn't bother with him and continued to chase the evil spirit puppet. Yi Tianyun controlled the evil spirit puppet and quickly retreated. He knew that the evil emperor's target was the evil spirit puppet, and it would be troublesome if he was caught. If the drug god hadn't stopped the evil emperor for him, the other evil spirit's pearls would have fallen into the evil emperor's hands. So he had to escape now. Stop him. The rest of the half-step god emperor seniors similarly executed their strongest moves. It was just that they were still slightly weaker than alchemy god. Fortunately, the tacit understanding they had built up over the years allowed them to unleash a joint attack, and the power was not to be underestimated. All sorts of elites came to intercept him, and they attacked evil emperor again and again. If evil emperor could dodge, he would, and if he could not, he could only block it. Wave after wave of attacks landed on his body, but nothing happened to him. At most, there were a few cracks on the surface of his body. Even his insides were unharmed. The evil emperor knew that even though he wasn't weak, but he emperor's emperor was still. Emperors. He knew that even though he wasn't weak, he had to spend some effort to deal with them. If he could swallow all the evil spirit's pearls, he would be able to deal with them easily. As he quickly caught up, even though he was intercepted several times, he still closed the distance between him and the evil spirit puppet. In a short while, he was behind the evil spirit puppet. Let's see how you escape this time. The evil emperor's eyes were filled with desire. If he could get all the evil spirit's pearls, he would be able to improve. He tried so hard to snatch the evil spirit's pearls but didn't get one. Now that one was in front of him, how could he miss it? Yi Tianyun controlled the evil spirit puppet to escape. Be it the black blood formation or other resources, they were all used. But they still couldn't escape the evil emperor's control. This was the difference in strength. They couldn't escape the evil emperor's pursuit. The drug god and the others chased with all their might. The evil emperor's speed was too shocking. Especially when combined with the black blood formation, his speed would be enhanced. On the other hand, they were still slightly affected. With such a contrast, their speed became even slower. They were very anxious. If this continued, the evil emperor would really snatch the evil spirit's pearls. Once they continued to strengthen, how could they fight? They were already hard to deal with. If they continued to strengthen, even if it was just a little bit, they would probably be finished. At that time, the human wave tactic would be meaningless. Their combined attack power was strong, but the evil emperor wasn't a fool. How could he just stand there and be attacked? Just by relying on his speed, he was able to kill everyone in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he could break through the lock and kill in front of them. He could quickly destroy the formation and eliminate them. When they couldn't catch up, they were all wailing in their hearts. Was it really going to end? At this critical moment, a figure suddenly rushed out. It seemed to appear out of thin air and appeared in front of the evil spirit puppet. Countless sword rays slashed over. The evil emperor didn't panic and quickly made a defensive move. Clang, 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 the flying swords kept bombarding him, but when they stabbed the evil emperor, they didn't hurt him at all. They only left faint marks that were almost invisible. Get out of my way. The evil emperor waved his hand in annoyance. A violent force shattered the flying swords, turning them into powder and dissipating. But at this time, the evil spirit puppet had disappeared. Yi Tianyun had put it away. The person who appeared to save the situation was none other than Yi Tianyun himself. As soon as he came out, he immediately attacked with 10,000 swords. Unfortunately, there was no effect. With the evil emperor's great strength and defense, these attacks were basically useless. Oh, where's your puppet? Did you take it away? After easily sweeping away the 1,000 swords, the evil emperor's eyes locked on Yi Tianyun. But it doesn't matter. Capturing you is no different from capturing the puppet. The evil emperor ignored the rest of the flying swords and tried to grab Yi Tianyun. Like the hand of the Grim Reaper, he sealed the surrounding space and completely locked the direction in which Yi Tianyun could escape. This was a very strong seal. It made his teleportation and teleportation god stone useless. Clearly, the evil emperor had studied his situation. After experiencing so many battles and suffering so many losses, if he still didn't be smart this time, then he really was an idiot. Chapter 1792. Yi Tianyun did not panic in the face of such a seal. He had expected that the evil emperor would use this method to seal him so that he would not be able to escape. After playing with him so many times, the evil emperor had learned his lesson and used his identity as a divine carver to seal off the direction in which Yi Tianyun could escape. The key was the black blood formation, which could make this sealing effect lock onto a large area. This way, it would be impossible for him to escape easily. Even if he could escape, he would not be able to escape before the evil emperor caught him. Alliance leader. When they saw Yi Tianyun appear, they were shocked. Wasn't he courting death by appearing at this time? When Yi Tianyun fought with the evil emperor, he was obviously unable to fight back. Even if he injured the evil emperor, it was only during a sneak attack. In the later head-on confrontation, he would not be able to gain an advantage at all. Now that he had increased by such a large margin, he would probably be easily controlled. Level up. Yi Tianyun looked at the evil emperor who was rushing towards him, and he immediately used all of his EXP to level up. Ding. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to the early stage of Middle God. Ding. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to the middle stage of Middle God. Ding, ding. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to the middle stage of Upper God. He broke through 2 realms in a row and finally stopped at the middle stage of Upper God. The continuous leveling up was really terrifying. This was the effect of accumulation. Previously, he could have broken through to the early stage of Middle God, or even almost the middle stage of Middle God. It was just that he did not level up and kept accumulating experience. While everyone was constantly resisting the evil emperor, he had already cleaned up many evil spirit race in the divine realm. Tens of thousands of flying swords were no joke. They swept through everything along the way, and the experience exploded crazily. Especially the experience cards, it was like they were free. With a flurry of attacks, the experience stacked up to more than 400 or 500 times. Under such circumstances, killing a heavenly venerable was equivalent to killing 400 or 500 heavenly venerables. Even if the experience wasn't high, it was still an extremely terrifying number. As a result, after killing an unknown number of millions of evil spirit race, his experience had reached an extremely terrifying level. It was just that he did not expect his cultivation to only reach mid-level upper celestial god before coming to a standstill. If he wanted to continue leveling up, he would need an even more terrifying amount of experience. It was another astronomical number. I can only break through to mid-upper god. But that's enough. Yi Tianyun definitely hoped to break through to the late-stage upper celestial god realm. That way, he would only be one stage away from the God-Emperor realm. However, his experience did not allow him to do so, so he could only obediently stop. However, this was not the end. His eyes flashed as he quickly exchanged for various items in his mind. Ding! Successfully redeemed the Demon Emperor set. Demon Emperor set. Only heavenly gods can equip it. After wearing it, the wearer can transform into a Demon Emperor at any time, increasing all strength by 1000 times, defense by 800 times, and speed by 200 times. When entering the Demon Overlord mode, he could allow all kinds of souls to possess him, thereby obtaining the abilities and power of their souls. Each absorption of a soul consumes 1000 crazy point. Demon Emperor set, a higher level set. After equipping it, a majestic aura spread out. This is the majesty of a Demon Emperor, the majesty of a God Emperor. Yi Tianyun reached out to the void, and a long spear similar to the 5-dragon divine spear condensed in his hand. This is not the 5-dragon divine spear, but the dragon god demon spear. It's a heavenly god spiritual treasure. When he broke through to the heavenly god realm, it had already begun to nurture, and after a long time of nurturing, it finally came out some time ago. At this moment, he took it out and held it in the palm of his hand. He felt a sense of integration, firmly attached to his palm. This feeling is like holding the whole world in his hand. Even without the 5-dragon divine spear, this dragon god demon spear still has a familiar feeling. After all, it was born by him, like a part of his body. Holding it is naturally very smooth. Crazy damage mode, burst. Yi Tianyun once again used the crazy damage mode, 256 times stacking, plus the stacking of the Demon Emperor set, let his combat power stack to an extremely terrifying level. Boom. The terrifying power directly caused the void to explode. The suppressive power of the black blood array shrouded him. Not to mention being effective, even the void around him was crushed. How could it still have any effect? This is equivalent to Yi Tianyun opening his own domain world. He is the master here, and no one can interfere with him. It's been a long time, evil emperor. Yi Tianyun held the dragon god demon spear tightly and stabbed it towards the evil emperor. A huge shadow of the dragon god bloomed, opened its huge mouth, and swallowed, as if it would swallow the entire world. How can this be? The evil emperor's pupils shrank, and he almost retracted his hand, but it was all too late. The spear has already stabbed over, and it seems to be very slow, but before it can touch the evil emperor's hand, the evil emperor's hand has already begun to turn into powder, dissipating in all directions. As Yi Tianyun pushed forward, more and more of the evil emperor's arm turned into powder. Even the terrifyingly hard crystal on it also turned into powder and dissipated in this world. When this scene fell into the eyes of the medicine god and the others, they were all stunned. The originally suppressed Yi Tianyun fiercely counterattacked, exploding with even more power, even stronger than the evil emperor. Especially in his current state, the evil emperor's indestructible crystal armor has turned into powder. How did he do all this? Did he rely on some elixir, or some special taboo martial art to improve himself? They did not believe that Yi Tianyun's cultivation could break through so many levels in such a short period of time. But the truth is that not only did his cultivation break through a few levels, but with all kinds of equipment, it directly allowed him to surpass the current evil emperor. In the blink of an eye, the evil emperor's arm turned into powder inch by inch, and this is not the end. The dragon god demon spear continued to pierce over, and it was the evil emperor's turn to stab the evil emperor's shoulder. But the evil emperor has already reacted, and with a loud shout, he slapped the arm that did not turn into powder, and fiercely slapped the dragon god demon spear. This time, the crystal on his arm rapidly strengthened by several levels. When it slapped, it did not turn into powder, only a few deep cracks appeared. After the slap, it did not send the dragon god demon spear flying. The dragon god demon spear in Yi Tianyun's hand was as solid as a boulder, and no matter what slapped it, it wouldn't budge. The evil emperor also did not hope to send the dragon god demon spear flying. Instead, he relied on this force to quickly retreat to the side, dodging the spear that continued to pierce him. Chapter 1793. Withdrawing his move, Yi Tianyun stood at the side, clutching the dragon god demon spear. He exhaled slightly. The attack just now had consumed a lot of energy, especially to familiarize himself with the feeling. Even as he thought about how to make his attack even more powerful, the vile emperor felt as if waves of shock were crashing through his heart. He hadn't expected that Yi Tianyun could increase his strength to this level. It had almost pierced through his armor. This was the armor he was so proud of. Even if the alchemist and the others went all out, they wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. Previously, when he was injured, it was only because he was ambushed that he was hit. Now that he had attacked head-on, his arm was instantly destroyed. If he hadn't dodged fast enough, half of his body would have been gone. The terrifying power refreshed his understanding of Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun, who was previously thought to be weak and cowardly, was suppressed by him and almost killed him. The alchemist and the others were stunned. They had tried their best, but they couldn't hurt the evil emperor. Yi Tianyun had suddenly become so strong after his return. How did he do it? The alliance leader, he's too strong, isn't he? Is he using some move that reduces his lifespan? Otherwise, how could he be so strong? Is he still the alliance leader? Even if he can create a miracle, isn't this a bit too much? So we can kill the evil emperor? The cultivators were all excited. Seeing the evil emperor injured, and not with a sneak attack at that, made them very excited. This meant that they had the ability to fight head-on. They didn't need to rely on other moves to win. Although it wasn't a big deal to rely on other sneak attacks to win, those were risky moves. If the sneak attack failed, the price would be terrible. Now, Yi Tianyun had attacked head-on and won this round, forcing out the evil emperor's hidden strength. Didn't you want me to fight head-on? Now that I'm here, why are you dodging? Yi Tianyun smiled faintly as he watched the evil emperor's arm recover rapidly. At the same time, it was wrapped in an even harder crystal than before. It was clear that evil emperor had not used his full strength. He had only used half of his strength. Otherwise, his arm would have been reduced to dust just like how it had been in the beginning. The evil emperor's face was gloomy. He didn't expect that he would suffer a setback this time. I almost died. I really can't let my guard down. I don't know how you did it, but with your current state, you definitely won't be able to last for long, evil emperor said coldly. Then let me give it a try and see how long you can last. The evil emperor was certain that Yi Tianyun had used some kind of forbidden power to unleash such power. With this kind of strength, he definitely wouldn't be able to persist for too long. After all, the increase was too great. If it was just a little bit, he might be able to persist for a little longer. But with such a huge increase, how could he persist for so long? Evil emperor himself could not last for too long, but in his opinion, he would definitely last longer than Yi Tianyun. Therefore, he unilaterally believed that Yi Tianyun would not be able to hold on for too long, and could only hold on for a short while. Not to mention the evil emperor, even the medicine god and the others thought so. Is that so? Then let's see who can last longer, Yi Tianyun sneered. The evil emperor was too naive. If he could hold on for too long, he would have stopped long ago. At most, he would consume a little crazy point, and the rest could last for a long time. Immediately, Yi Tianyun once again clenched the dragon god demon spear and attacked the evil emperor. He once again used his strongest move, annihilation. Annihilation, invincible annihilation. The evil emperor's expression was solemn, and he no longer looked down on Yi Tianyun. He was treating Yi Tianyun as an equal. He quickly reached out and grabbed the bone blade in his hand again. This time, he finally took out a weapon. When he fought against the medicine god and the others before, he didn't even use a weapon. That's because he was full of confidence in his own strength. In fact, he didn't need any weapon to suppress the medicine god and the others. Now facing Yi Tianyun, he had to use all his strength. Soul-snatching death god. The shadow of a skeleton appeared in the evil emperor's eyes. He reached out and waved his hand. With him as the center, countless bone spikes spread out in all directions. At the same time, huge skeletons emerged and swallowed Yi Tianyun. This kind of move made everyone's face pale. If the evil emperor used this kind of move against them before, they would have been killed a long time ago. In the blink of an eye, countless bone spikes and skeletons rushed to this side. Yi Tianyun was not afraid in the face of danger. When the two collided, the bone spikes turned into powder. Even the huge skeletons that rushed to him were also turned into powder and floated in the void. Soul-snatching death god. The evil emperor shouted. The eye on his forehead suddenly released a grey death light. It quickly penetrated this side and instantly arrived in front of Yi Tianyun. Originally, it wanted to hit Yi Tianyun's head, but under the control of Yi Tianyun's domain, it directly hit the dragon god demon spear. Boom! A force that wants to pull Yi Tianyun's soul out of his body came from the spearhead. He did not expect this to be a spiritual attack. Not only that, bone spikes and skeletons kept emerging from the surroundings. Together, it really was a soul-snatching death god. Senior's souls, gather for me. Yi Tianyun roared. The devil emperor set on his body instantly released a dazzling black light. Soul shadows appeared in the void. Everyone could see clearly what kind of experts they were. Groups of heavenly gods floated in the air. Regardless of whether they were ancient heavenly gods from the previous era or current heavenly gods, they were all flying in the air. They were all the strongest people of this era. Now, their souls had been summoned for Yi Tianyun to choose. Seniors, all of you, come over. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. The souls in the void quickly entered his body and attached themselves to his devil emperor set. In an instant, it released a dazzling light. Behind him, heavenly god shadows appeared. They gripped the dragon god demon spear tightly and suppressed the evil emperor with him. Boom! All the power gathered at one point. They were all experts killed by the evil emperor or the evil spirit race. Regardless of whether it was the heaven creator race or the divine spirit race, there were countless experts. Now, they were all gathered together to fight with him. Gather all the anger of the seniors and break. Yi Tianyun roared. The power of the dragon god demon spear in his hand increased by several times. A dragon god that had gathered countless souls rushed out and smashed the death light. It also broke through the bone spike's domain. Everything was destroyed by the dragon god's soul. It forcefully broke through the bone spikes that were like city walls and turned them into a pile of powder. This was true invincible power. It gathered all the power to destroy the enemy. The evil emperor's eyes narrowed. He had already used his full strength, but it had been instantly destroyed. There was not even the slightest resistance. Before he could say anything else, the dragon god's soul had already devoured his body and finally detonated where he was standing. Boom. Chapter 1794. Not only did Yi Tianyun's strength not weaken, it even continued to increase. With a powerful attack, the terrifying attack directly exploded on the evil emperor's body. Everyone's hearts were in their throats as they did not know whether the evil emperor was dead or not. Although the situation was much better now and most of the evil spirit race had been wiped out, as long as the evil emperor was not dead, they could not say that they had won. After all, the evil emperor was the real main force. Once they destroyed him, they would be able to rule the world. At that time, no one would be a match for them and it would not be difficult for them to slowly break the barrier and let their companions in. Therefore, they desperately hoped that the evil emperor would die under this move. Yi Tianyun held the dragon god demon spear tightly as he looked at the area of the explosion calmly. He also hoped that the evil emperor would die. However, he knew that the evil emperor was not dead, at least there was no news of the evil emperor's death. Once the evil emperor died, he would definitely send all kinds of experience and all kinds of treasures. However, it did not appear now, which meant that the evil emperor was not dead. It was just that they did not know how he was. After the explosion completely disappeared, the evil emperor's broken body appeared in everyone's sight. His originally tall and sturdy body was now very broken. Other than his head, the rest of his body had become very broken. There was not a single part of his body that was undamaged. He's not dead. Everyone's pupils constricted. They did not expect that he would not die under such a terrifying attack. However, it seemed that at least their chances of winning were very high. One move was enough to injure the evil emperor to this extent. What if he attacked continuously? Yi Tianyun naturally would not let go of the chance to beat him up. He held the dragon god demon spear tightly and flew over at an extremely fast speed. He once again used the annihilation technique and turned everything into nothingness. Take advantage of his weakness and kill him. Yi Tianyun would not wait for the other party to slowly recover before killing him. That would be the behavior of a fool. When dealing with enemies, he always did not hold back and wanted to kill them in one go. The evil emperor panted heavily as he looked at Yi Tianyun, who pounced over and said angrily, "If I don't kill you, I swear I am not the evil emperor." The evil emperor raised his head and roared. The black blood formation in the sky spun madly, and a terrifying black light pierced down from the sky, enveloping his body. Under the shroud of this energy, his body rapidly recovered. In the blink of an eye, his originally tattered body was instantly healed and restored to its original state. Not only that, but the energy of the black blood formation was also frantically surging into his body, continuously strengthening it. It was as if he had activated some sort of mysterious array, causing the effects of the black blood array to erupt. However, after it erupted, all of its power surged into his body, and the black blood array in the void became thinner and thinner. From the looks of it, if he were to continue absorbing, the black blood formation would disappear without him needing to clean it up. Yi Tianyun didn't know what trick he had up his sleeve, so he didn't stop attacking. Instead, he continued to attack fiercely. The dragon god demonic spear pierced through the air, and just as it was about to touch the evil emperor, a terrifying surge of energy knocked him away. The energy that surged into the heretical emperor's body was like a thick barrier that could not be easily broken. Again, Yi Tianyun didn't give up. The power of the devil emperor set exploded out once more, and with an even higher level of strength, he continuously struck the dragon god demonic spear. But each attack was only reflected back. At most, it would slightly distort the energy, but it couldn't harm the heretical emperor. With his probing eye, the heretical emperor's battle prowess was rapidly rising. He was already strong enough, and could still continue to rise. It was clear that the heretical emperor was going all out, and he was going all out, using all of his trump cards. This black blood formation was his final trump card. By pouring all of the energy into his body, he would forcefully raise his strength to another level. You want to harm me with this attack? I originally wanted to gather a bit more energy and absorb it all at once, but in order to kill you, I can only use it in advance. The heretical emperor coldly said, "Once I'm done, it will be time for you to die." Yi Tianyun's face darkened, and he quickly retreated. It seemed that in his current state, he couldn't kill the heretical emperor. Even if he wanted to take advantage of his weakness, he couldn't. "Everyone retreat, retreat to my god realm of the three realms, quickly." Yi Tianyun immediately gave the order. Given the heretical emperor's situation, once this was over, he would definitely start a massacre. At that time, even Yi Tianyun might not be able to stop him. The alchemy god and the others didn't hesitate. The alliance leader's words were an order. Then one by one, they turned and left, bringing everyone through the teleportation formation to flee to the god realm of the three realms. They could also see that something was wrong. If they continued to stay, they would only become a burden. The teleportation formation was already set up, so the journey to the god realm of the three realms was very fast. With a single move, the heavenly gods brought away their own disciples. This was actually part of the plan, one that had been made before the battle. If they couldn't stop the enemy, they would flee to the god realm of the three realms. Thus, they were all prepared to flee. All the disciples gathered together, not only to block the enemy, but also to quickly flee. In the blink of an eye, all of them fled. Run, run. That's more interesting. This emperor doesn't believe that the god realm of the three realms can protect you forever. The heretical emperor knew where they wanted to flee to. Only the god realm of the three realms was the safest. Yi Tianyun looked at him for a while, then quickly flew out of the sealed area, ready to flee at any time. He didn't expect that in the end, he would still fall to this point. Especially when his cultivation had increased by so much, he still couldn't kill the heretical emperor. It seemed like the heretical emperor was really an invincible existence. However, Yi Tianyun didn't give up hope. It could even be said that he had a lot of hope. The heretical emperor's true power? Let me see how strong he is. Yi Tianyun didn't flee back. He just watched the heretical emperor complete his strengthening. As more and more energy surged in, the heretical emperor was like a bottomless pit, constantly absorbing it. The surface of his body swelled up, and the black crystals on his body also became stronger. This was like a breakthrough. He absorbed all the energy so that he could break through to the God Emperor level. The black blood formation was originally for him to break through to the God Emperor level. Now, he didn't kill enough cultivators. Instead, they were all his clansmen. He was forced to raise his cultivation. Even if he couldn't break through to the God Emperor level, he could at least take another step forward and get infinitely closer to the God Emperor level. At this stage, he didn't know what to say, but he was really just a thin membrane away from the God Emperor level. Boom. Chapter 1795. After completely absorbing it, the evil emperor's state once again ushered in a comprehensive enhancement, reaching an incredible level. There was a slight fluctuation in the surroundings, but from time to time, there would be one or two celestial venerables or weapons that floated over, and when they came into contact with him, they would shatter into powder with a bang. Just relying on his aura alone, he could shatter such a hard weapon into powder. It was really terrifying. The current state of the evil emperor had really reached the state of a god emperor. God Emperor Wei was equivalent to the state of a god emperor. There was a gap in some abilities, but in terms of combat power, it should be about the same. In particular, the aura that was emitted made Yi Tianyun feel as if he was facing the statue of the medicine god temple. It was already very similar. Just a little more, and this emperor can break through to become a god emperor. How hateful. The evil emperor's eyes were full of resentment. He suddenly looked up and stared at Yi Tianyun. Two rays of light immediately locked on him, as if he was frozen in the void. Yi Tianyun really felt that his body was a little unable to move. Just a gaze and he was able to block his movement. Run. Without hesitation, he held the dragon god demon spear tightly and quickly swung it around, breaking the layers of imprisonment. Even though the evil emperor was equivalent to a god emperor, he was still not a god emperor. Yi Tianyun could still break it. After breaking it, Yi Tianyun did not hesitate to take out the teleportation godstone and disappeared. The moment he disappeared, the evil emperor had already reached the area where Yi Tianyun disappeared. It should be known that the distance between them was at least half a god realm, and he almost instantly arrived in front of Yi Tianyun. This speed was much faster than before. Damn it, he escaped again. The evil emperor furiously slapped the air, and with a bang, a hole was smashed open in the air. Everything in the surroundings was sucked in by the spatial crack, and everything was naturally sucked in. Only the evil emperor stood still. If it were any other celestial venerables, they would have been sucked in, but he was not affected at all. The evil emperor coldly swept a glance before his figure flashed and vanished. Before long, he was right in front of the god domain of the three realms. As he neared, his aura slammed into the shield, causing it to distort slightly. I knew you were hiding here. When evil emperor arrived, he saw Yi Tianyun standing there. Yi Tianyun had teleported back, and he looked at the vile emperor, who stood in front of him. That's your territory. If I stay outside, I'd be an idiot. If they were outside, evil emperor might have attacked a long time ago. Other than Yi Tianyun, there were others who were watching from behind, feeling a little nervous. They were all worried that the vile emperor would destroy the shield, but if he couldn't, they would be trapped here forever. That was no different from being imprisoned. Especially when resources were limited. If he couldn't get more resources, it would be even more difficult to make a breakthrough in this aspect. When that time came, they wouldn't know how to deal with the vile emperor. I don't believe that I can't destroy this shield. Evil Emperor roared, and this time, he used all his strength to smash down. Boom! A loud sound shook the shield, and the entire shield caved in. The terrifying energy didn't penetrate, but they could all feel how terrifying it was. Such a fierce palm strike, if it were them, they would have become cosmic dust. Evil Emperor didn't break the shield with one move, so he immediately smashed down again. Boom! The shield, which hadn't recovered, was smashed again, and this time, it caved in even more. But the shield still didn't show any signs of damage, and it looked as hard as ever, as if it could withstand all kinds of attacks. Break for me. Evil Emperor smashed down again, and he didn't stop at all. His attack pressed down again, and it was like smashing into everyone's hearts. Under this third strike, a crack sounded and a crack actually appeared on the protective shield. This crack was like a new tear, and it was incomparably painful. It actually cracked. Their expressions changed. Such an invincible barrier was actually broken. Although it looked like it was just a small crack, they at least knew one thing, and that was that the evil emperor could break this barrier. Yi Tianyun's face also darkened. It seemed that this barrier wasn't really invincible. The evil emperor's strength had already reached the level of a god lord. In this state, he had already surpassed the strength of everyone in this world, reaching an unprecedented state. In this state, it wasn't surprising that he could break the barrier. As long as this place is broken, where else can you escape to? This is your final shelter. Everything will end here. Viking laughed coldly. He was quite shocked to see the rift. That's right. That's right. He had already used all his strength to smash it a few times, but only a crack had appeared. However, in his current state, breaking it wouldn't be a big problem. It would just take a bit more time. During the destruction, other evil spirit races kept surging over. The other evil spirit races were no longer slaughtering and were all gathering over here. Although Yi Tianyun had killed many evil spirit races, there were still many that had not been killed. They were all gathered outside, surrounding this place tightly. Once the barrier is broken, this emperor will let all of you be blood sacrifices. As the evil emperor attacked fiercely, he looked at them and said coldly, "This emperor wants to see where else you can escape to. The transmission array has been cut off, and the so-called invincible barrier will disappear very quickly. Everything you have will no longer exist. Let's see how you will resist." The evil emperor's face was sinister. He had finally been able to break through the barrier and charge in. At that time, no one would be able to stop him from killing, and he would be able to completely vent the anger in his heart. He had been suppressed for too long. He had been unable to kill his way in and could only stare helplessly from outside. Now that he could break it, he would be able to kill his way into the Three Realms' divine realm and ruthlessly exterminate them. The many domain lords in the Three Realms deity domain felt a wave of terror in their hearts. Originally, their final trump card was hidden here. Now that their final shelter was gone, how could they survive? Are we going to lose just like that? Their faces turned pale. It wasn't that they were afraid of death, but that they couldn't even resist. This made them feel extreme despair. If they died just like that, they would definitely be unwilling. Their own territory had been taken away by the evil spirit race just like that, and they had died with grievances. Chapter 1796. While none of them knew how to deal with it, Yi Tianyun's expression was still indifferent. He looked at the densely packed evil spirit races around him and said calmly, "This should be all the evil spirit races. Although it might not be all of them, it should be more or less." When the medicine god heard Yi Tianyun's words, he interrupted and said, That's enough. Let's destroy them all at once." Yi Tianyun revealed a smile, as if he didn't care at all. What? The medicine god suspected that he had heard wrongly. There were so many evil spirit races and an evil emperor, how could he destroy them? "Don't worry. After the barrier is broken, leave the evil emperor to me. I'll leave the rest to you guys. This is a battle to the death. I hope you guys can hold on." Yi Tianyun said in a deep voice, "If you can hold on, it will be our victory. Alliance leader, this evil emperor is so strong, can you really deal with him?" The other domain lords all turned their heads to look. They all knew that Yi Tianyun was strong, but the evil emperor had become even stronger. Could Yi Tianyun still deal with him? Could it be that he planned to use an even stronger taboo technique and risk his life to block it? Even if I can't deal with him, I still have to fight, right? Yi Tianyun turned his head to look behind him. Behind him was not only his own power, but also his own home and family. Their cultivation was not high, so in this battle, they would not be able to play much of a role. However, Shi Xueyun and the others all stood up and participated in this battle. As long as one's cultivation reached a certain level, they would have to participate in the battle. There was no exception. The medicine god and the others were silent. When they escaped here, they brought their disciples over. If they were finished, then their disciples and their families would either be killed, or they would be enslaved forever. They would rather die than see such a scene. Let's go all out. They gritted their teeth, looked at Yi Tianyun, and said in a sonorous and powerful tone, "Alliance leader, we will definitely defend this place to the death. We will definitely not let these evil spirit race people harm a single hair on the inside." Their tone was very firm. Even if they had to perish together with others, they would fight to the end. "All right, I'll leave it to you then. Now, prepare yourselves. We are going to welcome the final attack." Yi Tianyun indicated for them to prepare. It was a good thing that the evil spirit race had surrounded the place tightly, so they had to attack from all directions. However, it was very simple for him. All he needed to do was deal with the evil emperor. Of course, this was the most difficult mission. If he failed, then he wouldn't just die, all the other region lords behind him would die as well. While the others went to prepare, Yi Tianyun quickly formed hand seals, and the 3 cores inside the planet of the 3 realms began to operate crazily. The entire planet was circulating all of its power, ready to erupt at any time. "I'll let you have a taste of the sweetness first." Yi Tianyun sneered. After completing the seal, he waved his hand fiercely, and a thick pillar of light shot out from the planet of the 3 realms, piercing through the barrier and striking outside. However, he did not aim at the evil emperor. The attack of the planet of the 3 realms was very strong, but compared to the strength of the evil emperor, it was insignificant. The terrifying pillar of light exterminated a large number of evil spirit races in front of everyone's eyes. The evil spirit race, which was originally like a city wall, fiercely punched out a huge hole. It was unknown how many of them had been killed. This was not the end. Very quickly, there was a second fierce attack. Beams of light once again whizzed over, exterminating another large group of evil spirit races. In the end, when the third shot was fired, the planet of the 3 realms dimmed. However, the large number of evil spirit races outside were all eliminated. The terrifying attack caused the expressions of the many evil spirit races to change. Even the region lords sighed. No wonder the evil emperor was defeated. Such a terrifying attack was equivalent to an extremely strong upper heavenly god's attack, or it could be said that it was equivalent to a fierce attack from a half-step god emperor. However, it did not hit the evil emperor. It only destroyed the evil spirit races at the side. This scene was filled with disdain in the eyes of the evil emperor. Struggling on the verge of death, what's the point of this? The evil emperor attacked the barrier again, and with another attack, the crack became even larger. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before the barrier would shatter. Based on this situation, it would take at most a few days for the barrier to be broken by the evil emperor. It was shocking that the evil emperor could attack for a few days in a row. It seemed like he could last for a long time, and it wouldn't be over in a short period of time. It was unknown what kind of ritual he used to borrow power, but it was very likely that it was related to the black blood formation. No matter what method it was, only by killing the evil emperor could he end all of this. After Yi Tianyun used this move, he meditated on the spot and closed his eyes to rest. He did not make any other preparations. He was waiting for the other region lords to make preparations, and not give up struggling. The rest of the region lords quickly made their arrangements. They were stationed in various areas to guard the area. A few days later, the barrier was covered with cracks that resembled a spider web. It was as if the barrier would be completely shattered in the next moment. In reality, under this fierce attack, it still did not break. Over the past few days, their hearts had been beating wildly. Sometimes, They hoped that the evil emperor would break the barrier and let everything start immediately. After all, it would come sooner or later, so it was better to start early. It wasn't a good thing to be waiting here with his nerves stretched taut all the time. Yi Tianyun was like an old monk, calmly sitting in the air, waiting for everything to happen. Is it about to break? Yi Tianyun suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the barrier above him. The evil emperor let out a furious roar and threw a vicious punch at the barrier. With a loud bang, the barrier shattered. It turned into a pile of dust and disappeared into the air. The barrier that could protect for 1,000 years had only lasted for 100 years. This meant that the barrier was not truly invincible. This emperor will destroy them all, leave none alive. The evil emperor's suppressed anger was completely released. He had been fighting here for several days. This feeling was definitely not good. Such a powerful force, but it took so many days to break. When had he ever felt this before? Yi Tianyun stood up, tightly gripping the dragon god demon spear. His clothes and hair fluttered without any wind. Evil emperor, this is the final battle. Yi Tianyun grinned. No, I should say, welcome to my territory, to the grave I have specially arranged for you. Foolish human. Death is at hand and you still dare to be so stubborn. The evil emperor was enraged. He thought that he would be met with fear when he charged in, but Yi Tianyun was not afraid at all. Power of Faith, activate. Chapter 1797. Ding. Successfully activated the power of faith. Combat power increased by 50 times according to current cultivation. In theory, the power of faith could increase one's combat power by 100 times. However, Yi Tianyun's cultivation was too high, so he could not fully release 100 times of his combat power. He could only release 50 times of his combat power. However, this was enough. On top of that, he could increase his combat power by 50 times in one go. How could the effect be bad? The moment the power exploded, the evil emperor had already pierced through the bone blade. Even the bone blade could not withstand the terrifying power and started to distort. This was equivalent to the combat power of an emperor god. Even a very powerful heavenly god spiritual treasure would not be able to last for too long. Soul-reaping death god. The evil emperor once again used a familiar move. In an instant, countless bone spikes were released, surrounding the area where Yi Tianyun was. It looked like a dense city wall, blocking everything, so that Yi Tianyun had nowhere to escape. At the same time, the eyes on his forehead released a ray of death light. The move was the same, but the power was greatly increased. It could be said that the power was more than 10 times stronger than before. In an instant, the area was covered by all the bone spikes, and the sky was filled with skulls. It was like a hell of death, covering the void. Fortunately, there were no cultivators around. Otherwise, they would definitely be sucked dry if they came into contact with the bone spikes. Such a powerful move was coming straight for him. The drug god and the others were all watching the situation. They were constantly resisting the invasion of the evil spirit race, and their hearts were in their throats. Could Yi Tianyun really withstand such a brutal move? The old move is useless against me. Yi Tianyun held the dragon god demon spear tightly and stepped into the void, rushing towards the evil emperor. Dragon god illusion destruction. The dragon god demon spear in his hand instantly turned into a giant dragon, pouncing forward and devouring the bone spikes along the way. Even the bone spikes that were stronger and stronger than before were destroyed layer by layer. Everything seemed to have turned into an illusion, destroyed with one attack. With the addition of the power of faith, Yi Tianyun's power turned over again, directly suppressing the evil emperor's attack. What? The evil emperor cried out in surprise, not daring to believe his own eyes. He was 100% sure that he could kill Yi Tianyun. His cultivation had increased by so much. Based on Yi Tianyun's previous strength, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. Even if he couldn't kill Yi Tianyun, he could at least heavily injure Yi Tianyun. However, this did not happen. Instead, Yi Tianyun broke through the layers of bone spikes. In the end, it collided with the death ray, and the two of them were actually in a deadlock. What a strong death aura! When Yi Tianyun collided with the deathlight not only corroded his body, but also slightly corroded the surface of the dragon god demon spear. The evil emperor was indeed the evil emperor. Even if he increased his combat power by 50 times, he still wouldn't be able to surpass the evil emperor by much. However, he wasn't done yet. His arms suddenly flashed with a bright light, and hard braces appeared on his left and right sides. The dragon god runes on them released a dazzling light. This was the intermediate celestial god spiritual treasure, the dragon god bracers. This was something that he had forged in a hurry during this period of time. Coupled with crazy mode, it was easy for him to forge this bracer. After equipping it, the two immediately stacked together, forming a perfect fusion, the dragon god bracers, increasing his strength and defense by 500 times. Open! Yi Tianyun waved his arm, and the dragon god projection opened its mouth and swallowed the death light. After swallowing the death light, it finally opened its mouth and pounced toward the evil emperor. The evil emperor wanted to dodge, but he found that he didn't even have the chance to do so. Or rather, he had never thought of dodging from the start. In his opinion, Yi Tianyun would die without a doubt. Why would he need to dodge? As such, the position he was standing in was completely a position to seek death. The dragon god projection opened its mouth and swallowed the death light. Just like before, it exploded. The air distorted, spinning into a vortex that continuously crushed and disintegrated the vile emperor's body. This scene left everyone dumbfounded. Yi Tianyun had successfully turned the tables once again. Wasn't this a little too heaven-defying? Could it be that Yi Tianyun was the kind of person who would completely overdraft his lifespan and die after using his move? However, if Yi Tianyun really had such a move, he could only use it. Against a heaven-defying existence like the evil emperor, he could only use it. How could he dare to hide it? After the explosion, evil emperor, who had been blown to pieces, appeared in front of him. Fortunately, the dragon god projection had swallowed a bunch of deathlights, and its strength had dropped significantly. Otherwise, this explosion would have definitely killed the evil emperor. After the evil emperor came to his senses, he quickly recovered his body and came back to life in the blink of an eye. His eyes were filled with shock, disbelief, and humiliation. He had already gone all out, but he still couldn't beat a human like Yi Tianyun. Where did your strength come from? You can't possibly have such great strength. The evil emperor was about to go crazy. He had already reached his limit, but Yi Tianyun could take even more hits than him. How was he supposed to fight? I already said, this is your grave. Yi Tianyun's expression was sharp as he swung the dragon god devil spear, locking onto the evil emperor's aura and stabbing it down. End this. A beam of divine light descended, covering the evil emperor's body. The evil emperor roared in rage, brandishing his bone blade to counterattack. However, it was pointless. This was a futile struggle. The moment Yi Tianyun surpassed him, the battle would be over. Boom. The evil emperor's attack was easily defeated, and in the end, the spear completely destroyed his body, turning him into dust that dissipated into the cosmos. Just as Yi Tianyun thought he had killed the evil emperor, a wisp of the evil emperor's soul emerged and fled to the side. It was just a wisp of a soul, but it was extremely pitiful. He only needed to stretch out his hand to crush it. I didn't expect you to be so tenacious. Yi Tianyun's gaze was ice-cold. He hadn't expected that his spear attack would still not be able to kill the evil emperor. It had only damaged his body, not killed him. Then he immediately followed up with a sharp spear stab. As long as he lightly touched the evil emperor's soul, the evil emperor would truly turn into nothingness, never to exist again. But just as he was about to follow up with a final attack, the evil emperor suddenly shouted, "Offer up the souls of all your clansmen, including this emperor's soul. Great evil spirit emperor, appear." After shouting, the evil emperor turned into countless motes of light that dissipated in the air and was sucked into the black blood formation. It wasn't just him. The other evil spirit race members also screamed and their bodies started to become transparent. In the end, they completely dissipated, turning into countless motes of light that entered the black blood formation. Chapter 1798. The evil spirit race that he originally wanted to deal with were all sacrificed, including the evil emperor's soul. Everyone was stunned by this scene. What was going on? Sacrificing so many in one go, could it be that he could summon some expert? After sacrificing all of them, a hole was torn open in the sky above, and an evil aura spread out from the hole. It didn't take long for a huge hand to stretch out of the mouth. It was covered in black crystals, and it was many times stronger than the evil emperor's. After the huge palm stretched out, it directly slapped down towards Yi Tianyun. It didn't attack anyone, but attacked Yi Tianyun first. Yi Tianyun looked at the huge palm, his pupils constricted, and detailed information immediately appeared in front of him. Evil Spirit Emperor's hand, Evil Spirit Race's Divine Lord level. Due to the restrictions of space, it can only break through the void and appear with a hand. Its power is extremely shocking. According to the situation of the sacrifice, determine how long the Evil Spirit Emperor can last. Evil Spirit Emperor's hand, Divine Lord's hand. Yi Tianyun's heart trembled. He never thought that a Divine Lord would already appear on the Evil Spirit Race's side. Due to the limitations of the world, only one Divine Lord could appear in each world. This meant that the other party had always had a Divine Lord. If he wanted to have a second Divine Lord, he would naturally need to occupy another world. The incomparably huge hand of the Death God crossed spacetime, and even crossed worlds. From an unknown distance, it fiercely slammed down towards Yi Tianyun. With this move, the void shattered layer by layer, and even sealed off all of Yi Tianyun's escape routes, leaving him nowhere to run. Full power. Yi Tianyun growled, all the power in his body erupted, and the dragon god's demon boots also appeared under his feet. This was the third Empyrean god spirit treasure that he had just refined. This way, he would be able to gather a set of top-notch equipment. However, he still felt that it was far from enough. He fiercely grabbed the dragon god's demon spear and attacked the death god's hand. At the same time, he ruthlessly leveled it up. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to the late stage of Upper Heavenly God. Since he was the leader of the Alliance, the Medicine God and the others could still gain experience points from killing other evil spirit race beings. Under such circumstances, he had finally reached the point of leveling up. After deducting a large portion of his experience, he was able to step into the late-stage Upper Heavenly God realm in one go, causing his strength to increase by a large margin. Originally, he didn't want to be in such a hurry to improve, but now that he was facing such a terrifying Grim Reaper's hand, he could only burst forth with all his strength to resist. If he couldn't withstand it, then the God realm of the three realms behind him would definitely welcome destruction. Therefore, he absolutely could not retreat, nor could he fall. He could be reborn, but what about the people behind him? Get lost. Yi Tianyun raised his Dragon God Devil Spear to meet the attack head-on. The power of annihilation surged forth, but in the face of such evil chi, his power was fiercely suppressed, layer by layer collapsing. When it came into contact with his Dragon God Demonic Spear, the spearhead immediately melted and turned into ashes that scattered in all directions. The further he went, the faster it melted. Even though Yi Tianyun had unleashed all his strength, he still could not resist the palm. This palm didn't have any fancy moves, it just slammed down, but the result it brought was death. Yi Tianyun pushed forward fiercely, but the Grim Reaper's hand was not pushed up. Instead, more than half of his Dragon God Devil Spear disappeared. Now, it was his body's turn to be melted by this death chi. When the thick death chi touched him, it rapidly seeped in and then turned into powder. This was the power of death, it could cause everything to welcome the end of death, completely vanishing from this world. What a powerful force! Yi Tianyun felt his body rapidly disappearing. He didn't expect that he would erupt with such a powerful force. Everything stacked together, but he still couldn't successfully resist this palm. Just a difference of one step, but a God Emperor was so much stronger than a heavenly god. Most importantly, this was just a hand, and it pierced through layers of the void to come here. The power must have been weakened. But this little bit of power actually suppressed him to the point that he couldn't resist, he could only rely on holding on. Rumble. The Grim Reaper's hand continued to press down, and Yi Tianyun, whose body was beginning to disappear, was fiercely pressed down, flying toward the sacred realm of the three realms. Yi Tianyun was like a falling meteorite, constantly pressed down, unable to resist. Everyone's expression changed. They didn't expect that after the heretical emperor sacrificed himself, he would summon such a terrifying existence. If he had summoned it from the beginning, they would have been long dead. But that was impossible. Who would sacrifice themselves unless it was a critical moment? The heretical emperor originally had a chance to become a god emperor. Sacrificing himself to summon an arm was clearly not worth it. Who would have thought that a strand of soul could be sacrificed? The heretical emperor's life force was too tenacious. Even so, he couldn't be suppressed. Let's hurry up and help. The medicine deity and the others quickly gathered and once again used a joint attack, attacking the Grim Reaper's hand. Boom, boom, boom. They used a series of joint attacks, constantly slapping at the Grim Reaper's hand. But when they came into contact, there was no effect at all. It could even be said that there was no damage at all. It was worse than an itch. Their expressions changed. Only the power of a god emperor could withstand their attacks so easily. If this goes on, the forces behind will probably be crushed. Hurry up and retreat. The medicine deity and the others could only choose to retreat. The Grim Reaper's hand was pressing down at a speed that was not fast or slow, so they still had time to escape. But when they wanted to move, they found that the sacred realm of the three realms had already been sealed, firmly sealed by the power of the Grim Reaper. It was obvious that the evil spirit race's evil spirit emperor wanted to destroy all life in this area. Since the heretical emperor had sacrificed his life to summon them, he definitely had to get rid of these big problems, so he couldn't let any of them escape. Damn it, we're really done for this time. Their expressions were ugly. They couldn't escape. Could they only watch as the Grim Reaper's hand pressed down on them? No, we're not done yet. Tianyun hasn't admitted defeat. At this time, Shishuayun and the others stood up and saw that Yi Tianyun was still holding on. The reason why the Grim Reaper's hand was pressing down so slowly was because of Yi Tianyun's extremely important role. Even though his body was starting to disappear, he still held on to the Grim Reaper's hand pressing down. Chapter 1799. Yi Tianyun would not allow the evil spirit race to destroy his own forces. He could only resist to the death and delay as much as he could. He believed that this kind of sacrifice could not be maintained for a long time. As long as he could delay it, he would be able to win this battle. It could be said that after blocking it, they would be considered to have won. After all, the evil emperor had already sacrificed all the evil spirit race, and they basically no longer existed. At least in this world, there was not a single evil spirit race. Go up. Yi Tianyun clenched his teeth and rushed forward, wanting to block the death god's hand. However, with his strength, how could he block it? It was already very good to be able to slow it down a little. However, he did not give up and continued to fight. Only he would dare to play like this. Alliance leader, let me help you. At this time, the drug god appeared behind him and rushed over. As soon as he touched the death god's hand, his body began to disappear. However, he also had many methods. The 10,000-year-old spirit medicine crazily superimposed on himself to slightly alleviate the disappearing power. Under direct contact, the drug god knew what kind of terrifying power Yi Tianyun had just endured. Now, he felt incomparable pain. The feeling of his body melting was not pleasant at all. Not only the drug god, but the other experts also came to help. However, their help was not like theirs, where they could use their bodies to block it. They could only attack from afar, trying to stop the death god's hand from continuing to press down. They could not get close. Once they did, they would be turned into ashes. After all, they did not have the body of the drug god like the drug god. With the help of spirit medicine, he could greatly increase his healing power. Even if they had the support of 10,000-year-old spirit medicine, they would still be turned into ashes. Therefore, only Yi Tianyun and the drug god could really rush up to block it. The rest could only continue to attack from afar, trying to stop the suppression of the death god's hand. However, even if they came to help, the effect was very limited. The difference in their strength was too great. If even Yi Tianyun could not stop it, what else could they do? However, if they joined forces to attack, it would more or less have some effect. It was better than just watching from the side. We have to defend, we can't let this attack continue. Yi Tianyun growled, pushing forward with all his might. Everyone nodded solemnly. Now, it could be said that they were going all out. As long as they were at the Empyrean level or above, they would constantly attack the Death God's hand. For a time, explosions kept raining down on the Death God's hand. However, some attacks didn't even make contact with it before they were devoured. Not every attack would be effective against the Grim Reaper's hand. However, they still continued to attack. They attacked with all their might. Not only did they want to survive, but they also wanted to protect this world and their friends and family. Under such frenzied attacks, the effects weren't too obvious. The Death God's hand continued to press down bit by bit, like a death sentence that couldn't be changed. Soon, even the drug god could not withstand it and could only choose to retreat. It was not that he was afraid of death, but if he were to die like this, it would be too much of a loss. He could only retreat quickly, go below, and start to recover his body. After recovering most of it, he chose to rush up to help. The other powerhouses attacked wave after wave, also exhausting their energy. Some quickly took elixirs to recover their energy, while others continued to overdraw their energy and attack the Death God's hand. No matter what they did, only Yi Tianyun continued to hold on and defend until the last moment. He didn't relax for even a moment. If it weren't for his super healing ability, he would have disappeared long ago. It's not over yet. Yi Tianyun continued to hold on. He felt that he wasn't far from the interior of the Three Realms God realm. If this continued, with one slap, a large number of people would definitely die. At that time, the entire Three Realms God realm would be destroyed. He gritted his teeth and could only hold on. Constantly being eroded by this death aura made him feel extreme pain. Even his consciousness was a little blurry. After all, it was equivalent to being continuously destroyed and then rapidly recovering. This was equivalent to being continuously injured and then continuously recovering. One could imagine that kind of pain. However, he didn't give up. Instead, he held on. Until the last moment, he would never give up. Alliance Chief is giving it his all. If he's giving it his all, what else can't we give it our all? Yeah, he's been holding on. When I get a little closer, I feel like I'm going to disappear. Grit your teeth and fight one more time. Even if we really die, we have to fight until the last moment. When the other God Realm cultivators saw Yi Tianyun's situation, each and every one of them were sincerely convinced and were filled with extreme worship towards Yi Tianyun. For so many years, they had never seen an existence with such strong willpower. Numerous God Realm cultivators all imprinted Yi Tianyun's performance in their hearts. The despair and unwillingness from before were now all replaced by determination and worship. They also wanted to be like Yi Tianyun, not giving up until the last moment. Ding, as more powerhouses have accumulated faith in you, the effect of your power of faith has been enhanced by one level. Currently, the highest power can be increased to 100 times the damage. At the same time, the consumption of faith has doubled. A melodious voice rang out, causing Yi Tianyun to quiver and use it without hesitation. Power of faith, all out. Ding. Activated power of faith, damage increased by 100 times. Dong. Yi Tianyun swapped out the Mountain Devil Emperor set and paired it with Crazy Mode. With the addition of this power of faith, his combat power directly exploded, reaching an unprecedented height. Boom. He swung the Dragon God Demon Spear forward, and the huge Grim Reaper's hand was actually pushed back. This was the first time something like this had happened. This meant that the power that Yi Tianyun exploded out had really surpassed the Grim Reaper's hand. Accompanied by a piercing pain, the Grim Reaper's hand even shrunk slightly. The indestructible black crystal on it had already broken a part of it. Again, Yi Tianyun gathered his strength and attacked again. The Dragon God Demon Spear danced wildly and smashed down again. Boom! The Grim Reaper's hand was sent flying again, further away from the God realm of the Three Realms. Alliance leader's strength has become stronger again. This is unbelievable. That's right. How did this alliance leader cultivate? How did he become stronger again? Alliance leader is invincible. Alliance leader is invincible. When everyone saw this situation, they began to shout. Yi Tianyun had once again created a miracle, pushing back the invincible existence of the Grim Reaper's hand. As Yi Tianyun pushed back the Grim Reaper's hand, his lips curled into a smile. The ones who can create such a miracle are not me, but you guys. Chapter 1800. Under the continuous attacks, the death god's hand retreated again and again. It wanted to exert more power, but there was nothing it could do. This was the current state where the sacrifice god's hand was at its strongest. It could not continue to be stronger as it wished. After being repelled several times, the death god's hand did not retreat and continued to fight with Yi Tianyun. However, this time, it was not simply suppressing the death god's hand. Instead, it kept attacking Yi Tianyun. Each palm strike could shatter the void and shatter the stars. Yi Tianyun was not afraid at all. The dragon god demon spear in his hand kept swinging forward. The dragon god shadow kept roaring and attacking the giant palm again and again. The two were locked in a stalemate for a while. Yi Tianyun's combat power had been increased by 50 times, but he could only gain a slight upper hand against such terrifying power. However, this was enough for him. As long as he could completely exhaust the death god's hand, he would be the winner. The experts below were even more dumbfounded when they saw the situation. For a moment, they did not know how to intervene or how to help. After all, when the two of them fought, those who were slightly closer would be sent flying and would either die or be injured. Finally, after fighting for a few hours, the void above them that had been torn apart began to shrink rapidly, trying to clamp the death god's hand off. The owner of the death god's hand seemed to be very indignant. After exchanging a few more blows with Yi Tianyun, he chose to retreat. After the death god's hand retreated completely, the black blood array disappeared without a trace as if nothing had ever existed. It's over. Yi Tianyun looked at the retreating death god's hand. After carefully observing the situation around him, he heaved a sigh of relief. We've won for the time being. We've won, we've won. We've persevered, we've persevered. After being stunned for a while, they all burst into cheers. This meant that they had held on. They had finally won despite being besieged by so many experts. One by one, the cultivators hugged each other and cried tears of joy. It was originally so hopeless, but now Yi Tianyun had ruthlessly counterattacked and protected this world. The medicine god and the others looked at each other and exhaled at the same time. Some directly sat on the ground, while others fell to the ground and laughed. They were laughing, but there were tears in their eyes. This battle had been too difficult for them, and they were in too much despair. Who knew how many of their friends and family had died? It was a win, but the real ending felt so sad. Yi Tianyun was not a god, he could not take care of everything, and there were still many casualties. Only the three realms' celestial realm was in the best condition. After all, it was originally protected by a protective barrier, which prevented the three realms' celestial realm from being invaded by the flames of war. However, in the following battles, casualties also began to appear. This was something that could not be avoided. This wasn't a game. It was impossible for there to be no deaths. They could all understand, but their anger towards the evil spirit race was still not completely vented. They wanted to avenge their loved ones, but it was all over. Naturally, everything wasn't over yet. From this death god's hand, it could be seen that the evil spirit race was not completely annihilated. It was just that their true territory was in another world, and there was an incomparably powerful divine lord. As long as they still existed, it was possible for them to enter through the crystal barrier and launch another attack on them. It was just that this time, compared to the first divine lord battle, the evil spirit race had been completely exterminated, leaving not a single evil spirit race in this world for the time being. Just this point alone, what Yi Tianyun had done was already something that no one before could do. Previously, there were still a few remnants of the evil spirit race, but no one knew where they were hiding. Now, they had all been cleaned up, and it was even done by the evil emperor himself. It was a lot less troublesome. Yi Tianyun descended from above. After removing all of his statuses, he felt a sense of weakness. His body staggered and tilted forward. But at this moment, a familiar figure appeared in front of him and gently embraced him. It's been hard on you. Yi Tianyun gently touched it, and when he smelled the familiar aura, he knew who it was. He reached out to hug her and smiled warmly. There's nothing hard about it. You've worked hard too. The person who hugged him was naturally not the medicine god, nor was it the other domain lords, but Shishueyun. After stabilizing himself, Yi Tianyun came out of Shishuayun's embrace and saw that Shishuayun's face was pale. She was also injured. Without a doubt, in this battle, Shishuayun had also put in a lot of effort. Under her crazy efforts to break through, she had broken through to the Divine Lord level. Divine Lords could participate in the battle. Perhaps heavenly venerables were the main force, but Divine Lords could at least resist a portion of the power. As Yi Tianyun's woman, Shishuayun still had to go to the battlefield. There was no exception. Alliance Master, you're really too strong. If it weren't for you, we would all be finished. That's right, Alliance Master, you're too strong. I don't even know how you did it. Could it be that you overdrafted your lifespan or something? Alliance Master, as long as you need something, I'll immediately find it for you. That's right, whatever spirit medicine, whatever treasure, as long as Alliance Master wants it, I'll immediately take it out. One by one, the Domain Lords came over with a smile. This feeling of surviving a calamity was simply too wonderful. Originally, killing the evil emperor was already very difficult, but the death god's hand that appeared later on had almost slapped them to death. That feeling of powerlessness was truly unbearable. Yi Tianyun looked at them and said with a smile, "There's no need. You guys have also suffered great losses. Go back and reorganize yourselves. After a period of time, we'll gather and discuss some matters." The Domain Lords nodded heavily. The smiles on their faces disappeared and turned into serious expressions. They all knew what they were going to discuss. The Domain Lords quickly left and returned to their own camps. There were still many things that needed to be arranged. As for celebrating, there was nothing to celebrate. In their words, everything was not over, so what was there to celebrate? At least the stone that was pressing down on their hearts had become slightly lighter, and it wasn't pressing down on them to the point that they couldn't breathe. In the short term, it was impossible for the evil spirit race to invade. During this period of time, they had to step up their cultivation. On Yi Tianyun's side, he also needed to adjust, but compared to them, the things he needed to do were much less. However, there were still many things that needed to be sorted out. For example, what was the plan for the future? Everything had to be sped up. Chapter 1801. After the battle ended, many of the forces began to rest and arrange for their recovery. Some areas were not in good condition and needed more time to recuperate. However, the evil spirit race did not exist for the time being, so they could slowly recover. For these kinds of forces that had suffered greater losses, the other forces would all provide some assistance and give them the greatest help. They were all allies, and even if the fight against the evil spirit race was over, they would still be allies. They were originally allied forces. If not for the help of those forces in front of them, they would have definitely suffered. Therefore, they all helped each other and would not destroy the bridge after crossing the river. If something like destroying the bridge after crossing the river happened, Yi Tianyun would be the first to not let him off. While the forces here were recovering, the evil spirit world on the other side was filled with curses and curses. "Trash, all of you are trash." The evil spirit emperor cursed angrily. The elders below looked at each other, and could see the helplessness and dissatisfaction in each other's eyes. Even after sending out the evil spirits and the evil emperor, they were still unable to take down this world. How could they not be scolded? Especially after sending out so many experts and so many resources, the result had disappointed them greatly. "Lord Evil Spirit Emperor, please calm your anger. Now that we have made a new plan, we can send out a new generation of stars, Sorosho, Scram." The Evil Spirit Emperor swung his sleeves and sent the elder who suggested flying. He really did have such a bad temper. Once he was unhappy, he would immediately make a move when he proposed these things. What new generation of stars? Aren't the two idiots sent out the new generation of stars? In the end, all of them died. This time, they are all gone, and they are all sacrificed for this emperor to destroy them. The evil spirit emperor said in a deep voice, "I never thought that there would be such a powerful existence over there. That power is almost equivalent to that of a divine lord. Didn't you say that there wouldn't be any divine lord over there?" After confirming that there are indeed no divine lordess over there. They are basically all half-step divine lordess. It's very possible that it's the divine lord that just appeared recently. Just appeared. You can't even grasp such a big piece of information like this. The veins on the evil spirit emperor's forehead bulged, and he was even more enraged. Even if it's Divine Lord Wei, we still have to kill him in the cradle. What a bunch of idiots. After doing so many things, they still didn't succeed. Instead, a god emperor Wei appeared. What the hell is he doing? Why don't we change to another method? We've already made some progress on the crystal barrier. It won't be long before we can break it. When that time comes, we'll directly kill our way over and annihilate them. One of the elders stood up and said with a trembling voice. The evil spirit emperor slightly raised his head and looked at him, a cold light flashing in his eyes, causing the elder's body to tremble. He was already prepared to be beaten. How long will it take to break it? The evil spirit emperor's anger seemed to have calmed down a little. Soon. Based on the current progress, we should only need 100 years to break that crystal barrier. The elder gritted his teeth and gave an accurate time. The other elders looked over in shock. In truth, it wasn't that short. It should be several hundred years before they could succeed. This was only a possibility, not a certainty. This elder clearly didn't want to be beaten, which was why he reported such a time. However, he couldn't lie. If they hurried, there was still a chance that they could successfully break the crystal barrier in such a short time. 100 years. The evil spirit emperor looked at him coldly and said, "If you can't complete it in 100 years, then come and see me with your head." Yes, yes. The elder revealed a bitter smile. He didn't expect that he would have to bear this responsibility. He didn't get beaten up, but instead, he had to bear the responsibility of death. It was clearly not worth it. The other elders revealed expressions of schadenfreude. They felt that this companion of theirs was really funny. Instead, he dug a hole and buried himself. The rest of you are the same. This emperor will give you at most 200 years. If you are unable to break it in 200 years, then all of you will come and see me. The evil spirit emperor looked at the other gloating elders and said coldly. What? They were all dumbfounded. They didn't even suggest it. Why did they have to take the blame? You sent out so many experts, and you can't even take back a world. Do you think you still have the face to live in this world? The evil spirit emperor said coldly. How much time has this emperor given you? After spending so much time, you still haven't succeeded. Their faces were filled with fear. This matter was indeed their responsibility, so if something went wrong, they would naturally be the ones to take the blame. If it wasn't for the fact that the suppression over there is too strong and forbids this emperor from going there, would there be a need for trash like you to take action? The evil spirit emperor stared at them coldly, as if his gaze of death was sweeping over their heads. I'll give you one last chance now, and that is to quickly break that crystal barrier. Otherwise, if they don't die, then you will die. The evil spirit emperor was truly angry. He had wasted so much time, yet he still couldn't succeed. How could he not feel angry? Yes, yes. All of them no longer had any thoughts of gloating. In the beginning, they all had to take the blame, but after someone suggested it, the evil spirit emperor gave them another chance. Then all of you, get out of here. The evil spirit emperor waved his hand, indicating for them to quickly leave and stop blindly wandering in front of him. Soon after, the elders quickly left. The evil spirit emperor stood up from his throne, placed his hands behind his back, and looked at the sky above him. A large ball of light could be seen with the naked eye, and around the ball of light, there was a thick layer of crystal barrier. The crystal barrier was not at the outermost layer. There was another layer of barrier at the outermost layer, and the crystal barrier was at the inner layer of the barrier. I never thought that in this world where there would be no divine lord for a long time and where resources are scarce, there would still be such a powerful divine lord. This is truly beyond my imagination. The evil spirit emperor frowned. He had thought that everything would be easily conquered, but who knew that not only would he not be able to conquer it, he would even lose a lot of experts. Although those experts that had been eliminated were nothing more than a drop in the ocean, to him, it was still a waste of time. It was a pity that he was unable to pass through the barrier due to the restrictions of the rules. Otherwise, with his power, he would be able to crush them without any pressure. What he could do was to make use of a few loopholes to pass through, but only a small portion of his body could pass through. This was like the hand of the Grim Reaper. Just one hand was enough to crush the entire battlefield. If his entire body were to pass through, he would probably be completely destroyed. Chapter 1802. After Yi Tianyun's side was reorganized, they all gathered together to discuss matters. This time, all the domain lords gathered together once again. Their expressions were all extremely solemn. They had already thought of what the main topic was, so they naturally felt a bit of pressure. I'm sure everyone has seen The Last Arm. Without a doubt, it must be the reinforcements of the evil spirit race's divine lord, proving that the evil spirit race has a divine lord. Yi Tianyun went straight to the point and did not beat around the bush. Our current goal is the crystal barrier, and the priority is to repair the crystal barrier. I want all the domain lords to share some of the materials we need. What do you all think? No problem. We agree with this suggestion. I agree, no problem. Very reasonable. If we do not repair the crystal barrier, we will be in great danger. What we are most afraid of is that the evil spirit race will make a comeback. With our current state, we will not be able to deal with it easily. That's right, no matter what, we need to rest for a while. Especially the Alliance leader and the Medicine God Palace Master, their cultivations are very close to the Divine Lord. If one of you two breaks through to the Divine Lord, then even if the enemy invades, we will be able to defend this place. All of the domain lords agreed without the slightest bit of objection. They had all seen the attacks of the evil spirit emperor before. If they did not defend the crystal barrier well, no matter how many resources they had, they would all be given to others. Seeing that all of them had chosen to agree to contribute, Yi Tianyun felt very gratified. It seemed that the great battle this time had united them, and there was no distinction between them. Looks like I don't need to say anything more. Everyone already knows what to do. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. These are all small matters. Even if the Alliance leader didn't say anything, we would still do it. One of the domain lords stood up and said, but the most important thing is still the Alliance leader and the Medicine God Palace Master. Of course, there are also the other half-step Divine Lordess. Without the Divine Lord, we cannot defend this place. Yes, the current safety is only temporary. Ever since I saw that giant hand, I have been feeling uneasy while cultivating. That power is too shocking. Thinking about this kind of enemy, just outside the crystal barrier, I feel a little uneasy. The other region lords nodded in agreement. They too had this feeling, and it was just as intense. This was like a bomb that would explode next to one's ear at any time. If it wasn't removed, one would not be able to live in peace. There was only one way to deal with such a situation. God Emperors would appear among them. With the appearance of a God Emperor, even if an external enemy were to invade, they would still be able to resist. Right now, he only had one arm, and he was barely able to block the attack. He was still trying to buy time. If he had come with his true body or only half a body, wouldn't they be finished? Breakthrough to Emperor God. Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes. If he wanted to break through to become an Emperor God, he would have to master all the attributes and accumulate a terrifying amount of experience points to become an Emperor God. Now, he couldn't even complete the prerequisites, let alone make a breakthrough to God Emperor. Breaking through to God Emperor is not an easy task. At this moment, those seniors sighed deeply. They survived, and it was all thanks to the help of the Medicine God. Otherwise, they would have died a long time ago. The other domain lords looked over. When they saw that the dozen seniors were all half-step God Emperors, all of them fell silent. After cultivating in seclusion for so long, none of them succeeded in breaking through to God Emperor. Which one of them wasn't an influential figure in the past? Each of them was hailed as the genius most likely to break through to God Emperor. As expected, none of them succeeded in breaking through to God Emperor. All of them remained at the limit of half-step God Emperor, unable to go any further. This was awkward. Although Yi Tianyun and the others were also heaven-defying, it was indeed very difficult to take that step. Indeed, breaking through to God Emperor is very difficult. The Medicine God stood up and said, "Rumor has it that it is very easy for our Medicine God temple to produce an Emperor God. After all, we have produced an Emperor God before. No matter what, we will have an advantage over others. I believe that is what everyone is thinking now, right? The other domain lords looked at each other. They didn't expect the medicine god to reveal such a private matter. Usually, this kind of thing was one's own private experience. It was normal not to share it, and no one would blame them. According to my ancestors' handwritten notes, there is actually no experience. My ancestor simply said that understanding the world is as simple as that. The medicine god looked at them and said truthfully. The domain lords looked at each other. They couldn't believe that it was as simple as that. How could this be called experience? It was just a casual remark of realization. If it was useful, it might be of some use, but if it was useless, it really wasn't of much use. At least when they thought back to this sentence, they really couldn't comprehend anything. It's actually very normal not to have any experience. The Fector domain lord interrupted and said, I believe everyone knows about cultivation. Some things can really be understood but cannot be explained in words. You can only carefully understand these words. The other domain lords nodded. This was true, but according to this, they had reached a dead end again. Was there no way to speed up the breakthrough? Who was the first god emperor in this world? Do you know? Yi Tianyun asked. The medicine god temple had produced an god emperor, but he wasn't the first one. The first god emperor. The other domain lords shook their heads. They really couldn't think of it. They didn't have a long history and knew very little information. The first god emperor was called Emperor Dengfeng. As his name suggests, he really became an god emperor, the medicine god explained. Emperor Dengfeng. How did this first god emperor become an god emperor? Yi Tianyun squinted at them and asked. I'm not sure about that, but his hometown seems to be in Fan Yu. As for what exactly happened, no one has ever investigated it. The medicine god shook his head. Even though the medicine god temple had existed for a long time, they weren't particularly clear about this. It wasn't information that the medicine god temple had. It was already very good to know the name of the first god emperor. Hometown is in Fan Yu. Yi Tianyun was stunned. The birthplace of the first god emperor was in Fan Yu. Wasn't that a slap in the face of the divinity realm? The divinity realm was so amazing, but there was no god emperor in Fan Yu. That's what the rumors say. Some people have searched for it, but they couldn't find it. The medicine god looked at Yi Tianyun and said, Does the Alliance Lord want to find out the situation of the first god emperor to find a way to break through to the god emperor realm? Chapter 1803. Searching for the insights of the first divine emperor was undoubtedly the best choice. After all, the first divine emperor couldn't possibly have any special cultivation technique, right? To be able to figure it out just like that, there must be something extraordinary about it. If he were to walk the path of the first divine emperor again, he might be able to comprehend something. But now, there was very little information. How could they find it? The other domain lords nodded in agreement. They felt that what Yi Tianyun said was very good, but there was no detailed information. Even if they knew that the method was not bad, there was not much point. Yi Tianyun had only suggested it, he did not need to participate in it. What he needed now was very simple. He needed to obtain all the attribute cores and accumulate enough experience. Then, he would be able to level up easily. He did not need to comprehend anything, as none of this existed. There was no such thing as being stuck at a bottleneck. As long as he completed the corresponding basic conditions, there would be no problem at all. His suggestion was mostly to let the other domain lords try and see if they could succeed. He also hoped to see other cultivators become divine emperors. Only then would he be able to defend this place and prevent the evil spirit race from invading. When he found out that other worlds could also have divine emperors, he knew that becoming a divine emperor was not as difficult as he had imagined. It was not really the only one, but different worlds could all have a divine emperor. Thus, he was not worried that he would not be able to break through after a divine emperor appeared in this world. At that time, he would charge into the evil spirit race's world and destroy them. Then, he would advance to divine emperor. Right now, he was also stuck at a bottleneck. He could not satisfy the prerequisites and could not break through for the time being. If they were to charge over and he had not broken through to divine emperor, It would be an extremely troublesome matter. Compared to breaking through to Divine Emperor himself, breaking through to Divine Emperor was also not a bad idea. However, he had very little information right now. It would not be easy for the other domain lords to break through to Divine Emperor first. It seems that no one has a good grasp of the information, but we can send someone to investigate the details. This is very important information. Yi Tianyun signaled them to send someone to investigate the information. Whether it is true or not, they can only know after investigation. The other domain lords nodded. Without Yi Tianyun saying anything, they all planned to say the same thing. At this juncture, any information was extremely important, so they definitely could not let it go. Speaking of which, do you have cores of other attributes? No matter what type it is, I will buy it back according to the corresponding price. Yi Tianyun looked at them, wanting to use the simplest and most brutal method to search. As the Alliance Master, it would be a waste if he didn't make good use of this identity. With so many area lords here, there was strength in numbers. They definitely had many types of elemental cores. If he had to slowly collect them, who knew how long it would take? Any elemental core is fine. The area lords were confused, but they didn't ask Yi Tianyun why he needed it. I have a light core, water core, and earth core. I have a dark core and a wood core. I have, one by one, they stated what kind of cores they had. After listening, Yi Tianyun shook his head. He already had all of these, and he wanted more complete cores. Right now, he had the 5 elemental cores, which included the metal, wood, water, fire, and earth elemental cores, followed by the darkness and light elemental cores, and finally, the lightning core. In other words, there were 8 cores, no more, no less. Currently, the cores in this world were the wind core, the dark core, and the yang core. Among them, the yin-yang core was the hardest to get. In the end, they could only provide a wind core, which was of a relatively low grade, only rank 3. This wasn't a problem. He could just throw it into the shop and copy it, and he could still upgrade it to a higher grade. Although collecting all the cores would satisfy the requirements, the grade had a certain requirement. It couldn't be lower than rank 5. This requirement wasn't too harsh, and it was still acceptable. None of you have a yin-yang core? After reporting them one by one, Yi Tianyun frowned. As expected, cores weren't as easy to collect as he had imagined. No, these things are too rare, almost impossible to find. I've seen people who cultivate yin-yang power, but I've never seen anyone with a yin-yang core. Yes, Alliance Master, we have all the other cores, but this yin-yang core is too rare. Alliance Master, do you have a disciple who cultivates yin-yang power? Yin-yang cores were too rare, mainly because there were too few cultivators in this area, so there wasn't much point in having them. Of course, the main reason was that they were too rare, so rare that they didn't even have a spare. Usually, those who cultivated yin-yang power would be rejected by some regions, and they wouldn't be listed as core disciples. It wasn't that these disciples weren't strong, but that they couldn't afford to raise them. Without a corresponding core to cultivate, their cultivation speed would be much slower. For example, when they finally cultivated to the Divine Lord level, disciples of other attributes would have already broken through to the Heavenly Venerable level, and they could easily kill them. There wasn't much point in being strong at the same level. Cultivation was too slow, and these domain masters couldn't wait. That's not it, but I need it myself. Yi Tianyun looked at them and asked, do you have any information about this core? Yi Tianyun looked at the medicine god and the Fector domain master. They had the most information, so they might know something. Yin-yang core. The Fector domain master smiled bitterly. It's strange, but I obtained a yin-yang core a long time ago. It was rank 4, not bad. But I used it later, so I don't have any left. Fector domain master, where did you get it? Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. To him, it didn't matter if he used it. As long as he had some clues, he could search for it himself. Now, he had nothing else to do, and he was waiting to collect the core. Well, this is the strange part. I found it in Fan Yu, the Fector domain master said with a smile. Fan Yu again, the other domain masters were stunned. Fan Yu was called Fan Yu because it didn't have any good things, and the environment was bad, so it was difficult to obtain good things. Now, the first God Emperor had appeared in Fan Yu, and a rare core had also been found in Fan Yu. This was very strange. Not to mention, the planet of the three realms was also located in Fan Yu. All the signs pointed to Fan Yu. Was it really that simple? Is there anything special about Fan Yu? Have any of you carefully searched every corner? Yi Tianyun asked. The domain masters shook their heads. They had no intention of searching at all. This meant that Fan Yu was more mysterious than the god domain. Chapter 1804. Fan Yu had always been looked down upon by the god domain, but there were so many strange things about it. This made Yi Tianyun curious about Fan Yu. According to the records, Fan Yu was extremely mediocre. There were no secrets or shocking relics. On the other hand, there were all kinds of relics and treasures in the god domain. Therefore, it was normal that no one went to Fan Yu. I went to Fan Yu for a while, but I didn't find any treasures. Instead, I saw a very ordinary environment. As for the yin-yang core, I was lucky enough to get it. I searched seriously then. I didn't go deep, but I spent some time. Seeing that I couldn't find anything, I turned back. The Fector domain lord shook his head. Fan Yu is too big. I didn't have much time, so I didn't go deep. Now that you mention it, it really makes me want to investigate. Looks like I have to find some time to do so. Not only the Fector domain lord, but the other domain lords also nodded. They were tempted. There seemed to be many secrets in an unknown territory. Perhaps this secret was hard to find, but it was precisely because it was hard to find that it was called a secret treasure. It seems like everyone's interest has been piqued. Let's not delay any further. Everyone, let's search together and investigate the situation of the mortal realm. Yi Tianyun immediately made up his mind. There was strength in numbers. He definitely hoped that the other domain lords would join him in the search. The stronger one's cultivation, the faster the search would be. To him, treasures were not important. The most important thing was the yin-yang core. The other 7 and 8 cores, the 8 and 9 spiritual herbs, the 100,000 years old spiritual herbs, these were not important. The most important thing was to fulfill the conditions to break through to God Emperor. Once he became a God Emperor, wouldn't these treasures be easy to obtain? Therefore, the most important thing was the yin-yang core. It would be best if the other domain lords could help find it. After making the decision, they immediately set off for Fan Yu. Yi Tianyun didn't need to prepare anything. The god domain of the three realms was managed by Shishueyun and the others. He didn't need to worry about it. Very quickly, the boundary between Grade 3 and Grade 4 god realms began to shake violently. In less than a moment, a figure broke through the barrier and rushed out. Even though the barrier was extremely sturdy, it was still forcibly penetrated. It's been a long time since I've returned to the outer divine regions. This feeling is far too familiar. The one who rushed down was naturally Yi Tianyun. If he wanted to advance from Grade 4 God Realm to Grade 3 God Realm, he would have to put in a lot of effort. The barrier was simply too great. Even someone as powerful as him couldn't relax. He turned his head to look at the barrier and asked doubtfully, "This was deliberately created by the heavens. What's the meaning of this?" Very few people thought about this. They just felt that it was a matter of course. No one felt that there was anything wrong with it. Yi Tianyun hadn't thought about it much either. Now that he thought about it carefully, perhaps there really was some meaning to it. If one thought about it carefully, the reason for this partition was because they were afraid that Fan Yu wouldn't be able to withstand too much power. In reality, this was indeed the case. The space here wasn't very stable. If one were to casually explode here, it could easily cause space to be damaged. This was why this special barrier was created. However, if one wanted to come down, they could still force their way down, just that it would take a bit more effort. It wasn't that those domain lords couldn't come down, it was just that they weren't interested in Fan Yu. This was like the rich district and the slums. The rich definitely hadn't been to the slums, so they didn't know what the slums looked like. However, they only needed to know one thing, and that was that the slums were poor enough. Thus, they immediately lost interest. But now, they wanted to come down one by one. This was equivalent to a treasure appearing in the slums. Naturally, it would attract their attention. This time, Yi Tianyun came alone. It wasn't that no one was willing to come with him, but he was a little more free. How could the other domain lords leave as they pleased? They still had many things to do before they could come. Some domain lords wouldn't come, but they would send elders to explore. Hearing this, their hearts were itching. They wanted to come over and explore. If they were lucky, they might be able to find something. Yi Tianyun quickly returned to Fan Yu, where the three realms used to be. This place wasn't any different from before. It was still filled with planets. Although the three realms had been moved away, it was quickly replaced by new planets. It's still the same, but I do miss it. Yi Tianyun looked at this place and felt a little emotional. In the beginning, this was where he started. It was extremely difficult for him to climb step by step to where he was now. Fortunately, everything was over, and he had reached an unprecedented height. However, this wasn't the end for him. Yi Tianyun only reminisced for a moment before he continued to fly in, exploring the situation ahead. His cultivation had increased, and the area he could cover had become much wider. With a little exploration, he could explore a small part of the region. In other words, it was equivalent to exploring a small part of the God domain. It was just that there weren't any divisions of power here. They were all divided by planets. Everyone's cultivation was so low, and there were very few who could fly out. How could there be any division of power? Sure enough, the cultivation here is generally low. Whether it's the concentration of spiritual power or the environment, the difference is too big. Yi Tianyun saw many planets along the way. The cultivators inside were all at the spirit refinement stage, core condensation stage, etc. Everything was the same, but he had to say that many cultivators in the God domain came from here. It was a bit contradictory to say that Fan Yu was bad. In the top 3 God domains, those who had outstanding results were all from Fan Yu's forces. In the God domain, the proportion was quite small. At that time, there were more disciples from the God domain. Yi Tianyun continued to go deeper and flew inside. He didn't see anything special. They were all very ordinary forces. It could be said that there were no bright spots, and he couldn't find any bright spots. No wonder no powerhouses would continue to go deeper. He had been flying for a long time, and he didn't find any bright spots. What treasures, what fortuitous encounters, these were all absent. Or even if there were treasures and fortuitous encounters, it was only for those with relatively low cultivation. For him, it was worthless. Yi Tianyun didn't give up and continued to fly forward. At the same time, he released various puppets and pets and quickly flew around to search. He must search the entire Fan Yu. If he couldn't find it, he would go around the God domain to search. He didn't believe that he couldn't even find a yin and yang core. Chapter 1805. Yi Tianyun searched frantically along the way. Time passed quickly. He had lost count of the number of planets he had checked, but he had not found anything good. Given his personality, he would not stop here. Instead, he would continue searching. I have checked tens of thousands of planets, but there are no clues at all. It's no wonder I can't attract those powerhouses. It's such a waste of time to keep searching. Yi Tianyun shook his head and continued searching. While he was searching, he also received news that the other territorial lords had been mobilized to search for Fan Yu. They were divided into different regions and were searching. With the help of so many people, he believed that he would get some news soon. As Yi Tianyun continued flying in boredom, he finally saw a new region, the Crystal Barrier. He had not expected there to be a crystal barrier here. It was fine if there was a crystal barrier in the divine territory, but why was there a crystal barrier in this region as well? And this was the area of Fan Yu. Did they need to guard against some strong enemy? This made Yi Tianyun very confused. He had no idea what was going on there. Immediately, Yi Tianyun set the coordinates and used the teleportation divine stone to go to the crystal barrier in the divine territory. It was good to have the teleportation divine stone. As long as he set the coordinates, he could return easily. Originally, he could easily return to Fan Yu with the teleportation divine stone. He only wanted to experience the feeling of returning, so he did not use the teleportation divine stone. Now that he had experienced it, he would definitely use the teleportation divine stone to return. How stupid would he be to fly back? When he arrived at the crystal barrier region, he immediately saw the sky creators busy. Even Huan Mingyu had joined the team to strengthen the crystal barrier. They had been busy since the start of the plan. There were too many regions that needed to be repaired in the crystal barrier. Hence, they had to keep busy and could not stop. Elder Li Jing, I would like to ask you something. Am I disturbing you? Yi Tianyun stopped in front of one of the elders. This elder was highly respected and also belonged to the older generation, so he knew a bit more information. Alliance Master, if there's anything you need, just say it. There's no need to disturb us. Elder Li Jing respectfully stood at the side and said with a smile. I just returned from Fan Yu's place and discovered a crystal barrier there. Do you know about it? Asked Yi Tianyun. Fan Yu also has a crystal barrier? Elder Li Jing was shocked. It was obvious that he did not know about it. That's right. There is indeed a crystal barrier over there. That's why I wanted to ask you all exactly what is inside the crystal barrier over there, Yi Tianyun inquired. I really don't know. I'll go ask the other clansmen. Elder Li Jing immediately flew over to ask the others. After asking, all of them shook their heads, indicating that they did not know. I'm not too sure about that. We don't have any records of this. In other words, this crystal barrier was set up a long time ago. Our heaven-creating clan's celestial territory fell and everything was plundered. There are no records left. Elder Li Jing shook his head, indicating that he could not answer. So that's the case. Can you open a passage for me to go over and take a look? Yi Tianyun felt that if he did not know anything, he could go through the passage and find out the situation over there. As long as it was the slightest clue, he did not want to miss it. That's not a problem. However, we don't know the situation over there. If you go over, you might encounter danger. Elder Li Jing shook his head and advised Yi Tianyun not to be rash. This was just like the crystal barrier in front of them. No one knew what was on the other side and did not dare to go over casually. Once they went over, it might be a densely packed evil spirit race. Wouldn't that be equivalent to a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth? This was also the reason why they did not dare to go over to investigate. However, there was no need to think too much. The evil spirit race was definitely on the other side. They were still continuously destroying the crystal barrier and had not stopped. Therefore, they needed more time to repair it. No, there might be some secrets hidden over there. I still have to go over. I can even suppress the evil emperor. I don't believe that there are many evil emperors over there. Yi Tianyun smiled and said. That's true. If there was something similar to the evil spirit race over there, the crystal barrier would have been destroyed long ago. At the very least, there would be invaders coming over. On the other hand, Fan Yu's side is completely fine. Elder Li Jing nodded and turned to the side. Then let me help. Seniors are the best at repairing the crystal barrier. There's no need to trouble seniors to follow us. At this moment, Huan Mingyu stood up and volunteered to help. There was a rare smile on her face, and her expression became much more amiable. Ever since the evil emperor was destroyed and she returned to the heaven-creating clan, the coldness on her face had finally lessened. She had already integrated into the heaven-creating clan. After the heaven-creating clan found out about her experience, they completely accepted her and did not hold any grudges against her. After all, they had all been captured and knew what the evil emperor had done to them. Since their hearts belonged to the heaven-creating clan, they naturally chose to accept her and not reject her. Yi Tianyun looked at her and smiled. All right, you can help. He naturally did not mind letting Huan Mingyu help. After all, it was fine as long as the heaven-creating clan could help open the passageway. The other heaven-creating clan members did not have any objections either. After all, it was fine as long as their clansmen helped. However, they looked at Yi Tianyun ambiguously. They seemed to think that Huan Mingyu and Yi Tianyun had something going on. After all, Yi Tianyun had saved Huan Mingyu. Perhaps Huan Mingyu wanted to repay him with her body. Yi Tianyun felt very helpless and did not explain much. He brought Huan Mingyu with him and used the teleportation godstone to teleport to the crystal barrier. This is the place. Help me open the passageway. Yi Tianyun patted the crystal barrier in front of him. So fast. Huan Mingyu was stunned. They had instantly arrived at Fan Yu from the deity territory. Wasn't this too exaggerated? Don't worry about that. Just help me open the passageway, said Yi Tianyun with a smile. Sure, but there is something I have to say. After the passageway is opened, I will go with you. After Huan Mingyu accepted the shock, he quickly calmed down. Yi Tianyun often creates miracles, so it's not surprising that this kind of strange thing happened. This. Yi Tianyun frowned. That place is filled with unknown dangers. It is not appropriate for you to go with me. Chapter 1806. Yi Tianyun was startled, but after thinking about it carefully, he realized that it was true. Without Huan Mingyu opening the door, it would be difficult for him to pass through the crystal barrier, but that was under the premise that he could force his way through. If he used the teleportation godstone, there would be no problem. This was similar to passing through the barrier from Grade 4 God Realm to Grade 3 God Realm. It required a lot of effort. As for why would he need to fly over slowly, he could directly use the teleportation godstone and reach Fan Yu in one step. Unless the space on the other side sealed him and he couldn't use the teleportation godstone, he could easily return without passing through the crystal barrier. Actually, I really don't need your help to open the door. I can return by myself. Yi Tianyun shook his head. Clearly, Huan Mingyue's words were not valid, at least not for him. Impossible, you definitely can't pass through the crystal barrier. Unless you open a passage, you can't come over. Huan Mingyu didn't believe that Yi Tianyun could do it. Let's not talk about this for now. Do you really want to go with me? Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes at her. If you want to repay me, forget it for now. There are many dangers over there, you can't go with me. He hadn't been there before, but since there was a crystal barrier here, it was definitely not normal. Huan Mingyu stared at him for a moment, then said solemnly, yes, I want to repay you. Not only did you save me, you also helped me take revenge. I can't repay this kindness in this life, I can only follow by your side and help you. Yi Tianyun waved his hand, shaking his head, no need, this isn't a kindness, it's just something I did in passing. You can help us repair the crystal barrier and protect us, this is already enough to repay me. This topic ends here. After opening the passage, you can go back. No, I want to go with you. If you don't bring me, when the other region lords find out, they will definitely want to go. At that time, I will go with them. Huan Mingyu was stubborn, she wanted to go with Yi Tianyun no matter what, so that she could help him. Yi Tianyun was startled, it really was so. Even if he didn't bring Huan Mingyu over, Huan Mingyu could go over on his own. He could even go with the other region lords. When he was stubborn, he really didn't know what to do. After a moment of silence, he nodded and said, all right then. Since that's the case, you can come over with the other region lords. I'll help you scout the path first and make a mark at the same time. When you see the mark, you'll know the situation. In the end, he could only compromise. However, he went in alone to figure out the situation inside. If it was dangerous, at least he would be able to return before they came in. Of course, the prerequisite was that his teleportation godstone was effective. Otherwise, he could only stay outside and wait for them to enter. Huan Mingyu did not refuse this time. This was a good idea. For her, it was enough as long as she could go in and help. No matter what, her cultivation was at the level of a medium heavenly god, and she possessed the bloodline of the Heaven Creator clan and the heretical emperor. She could not be weak. However, Yi Tianyun alone was enough. He had many abilities, but it was not convenient for him to use them. Obviously, it was not convenient for him to act with another person by his side. Immediately, Huan Mingyu began to open the passageway. When she used the abilities of the Heaven Creator clan, the crystal barrier in front of her began to emit a faint light. Then, a small opening appeared and gradually grew larger. When it was just big enough to fit through, Yi Tianyun immediately dove in. The opening of the passageway was two-way. Hence, when one side opened, the other side could also enter. In order to prevent any strange things from coming in from the other side, he had to fly over quickly so that he could kill his way over and see what was going on. After he dove in, the thick crystal barrier in front of him began to break through rapidly. It was not completely broken through in one go. Yi Tianyun dashed all the way through. Finally, the crystal barrier in front of him disappeared completely, and he quickly dove through it. As soon as he got out, he immediately became vigilant and entered a fighting state. However, when he came out, he did not see any enemies. What came into view was an incomparably dilapidated world. There were piles of ruins that looked extremely dilapidated. In fact, it was a pile of dilapidated palaces. This palace was extremely spacious and one could not see the end of it. Even though it had become a pile of dilapidated stones, one could still see its former glory. Who would have thought that there would be a pile of dilapidated palaces on the other side of the crystal barrier? What's going on? Yi Tianyun flew over. When he stepped into this palace, he immediately felt a wave of vicissitudes. That ancient aura had existed for many years. He could still see the traces of battle here. Blade and sword, and the ground was full of scars. Just by touching it lightly, he could feel the intensity of the battle. Looks like it was a heavenly god-level battle. Moreover, it was at the ancient heavenly god level. It was a very ancient battle. As Yi Tianyun made his way over, he could feel the traces of brutal battles. They were all experts' battles. The weakest traces were at the heavenly venerate level, and the strongest were at the half-step god-emperor level. Along the way, he quickly saw some corpses piled up on the ground. No one cleaned them up, and there was nowhere for them to settle down. This was such a miserable thing. They must have been extremely glorious when they were alive and were revered by tens of thousands of people. However, they died here without a burial ground. Such a comparison was truly laughable. Although there were a lot of wreckage here, there were no treasures here, and they had all been taken away. From this, it could be seen that someone had definitely come here and taken all the treasures. However, these corpses would not be buried and would be casually thrown away. What's going on? There's no evil spirit race. It's just a pure battle between cultivators. As Yi Tianyun went deeper, he did not see any evil spirit race corpses, nor did he sense any evil spirit race aura. It was very likely that a great battle between some forces had led to such a tragic ending. This was not surprising. Even if there was no evil spirit race, there would still be battles between forces. However, when facing the invasion of foreign enemies, the forces on this side would instead unite against them. They were absolutely united. This seemed contradictory, but it wasn't. It could only be said that he was in charge of his own territory. The foreign enemies were eliminated first, and the final battle was in his own territory. When he searched along the way, he did not find any clues, but he knew one thing. That was, there was a new world on Fan Yu's side. There was dense energy here. As it was isolated by the crystal barrier, there was naturally no energy on Fan Yu's side. As time passed, Fan Yu naturally became weaker and weaker. Chapter 1807. After a brief inspection, Yi Tianyun was able to see many things. No wonder the number one God Emperor would appear here. It wasn't because he was heaven-defying, but because the environment wasn't bad. The starting line was about the same, so it wasn't surprising for a God Emperor to appear. Why is this place isolated by the crystal barrier? Could there be some unspeakable secret here? After flying for a long time, he finally saw people. 3 cultivators had formed a team and were looking for treasures. They were 2 males and 1 female. One of the males was older and his cultivation level was average. He was only at the God Monarch level. The other 2 were younger and their cultivation level was at the Earth Monarch level. They should be masters bringing their disciples here to search for treasures. They were constantly searching through the various remains. Some were even thrown to the side and turned into dust. How powerful they were when they were alive. After death, they were abandoned by others. What a miserable ending. Master, are there any more treasures here? No matter how I look, it's just a pile of corpses. One of the young men was constantly searching for remains, but he didn't find anything. That's right. I searched for a long time and didn't find anything. This primordial sacred palace has existed for so many years. Even if there are treasures, they should have all been searched, right? A young lady at the side interrupted. Ji Qiu, Xiao Yu, the 2 of you are too impatient. Master has been emphasizing that the two of you have to be patient and not be impatient. If you search here, you might be able to find some decent treasures. The 7 divine kings shook his head in disappointment. Got it, Master. The two of them could only obediently listen to the instructions and continue searching. They didn't let go of any corner. They were very depressed. There really weren't any treasures here. All they saw were these remains that had been rummaged through countless times. As there wasn't any danger here, they could casually search. Unless they met some ferocious cultivators, there wouldn't be any problems. Clang. At this moment, a Heaven Dao treasure landed on the ground and attracted their attention. Look, Master was right. As long as you are sincere, metal and stone, Yi Tianyun landed in front of the 7 divine kings, feeling somewhat amused. Let me ask you a few questions. If you can answer them correctly, this treasure will be yours. This kind of cultivator who wanted to eat leftovers was not uncommon no matter where they were. They all wanted to search through the areas that had been searched countless times to see if they had missed anything. Some of them were lucky enough to find some treasures in some tiny corner. The ones fighting here were all tyrannical Empyreans and above. Anything here was incomparably precious. What? Their eyes widened as they stared at the treasures on the ground. They then turned to look at Yi Tianyun. Wasn't he a little too generous to give away a heavenly Dao treasure just for asking a simple question? The expression of the 7 divine kings changed. He didn't rush to pick up the treasure. Instead, he bowed and said, "What questions do you have, Heavenly Immortal? I will tell you everything I know without hiding anything. It is my honor to be able to answer Heavenly Immortal's questions. How would I dare to accept such a treasure?" At the same time, he glared at his 2 disciples. They immediately knelt down without any hesitation. A person that even their own master was so respectful to couldn't be weak. He was most likely a Empyrean. A Empyrean powerhouse was a godlike existence to them. Yi Tianyun looked at the 7 divine kings. He had to admit that this immortal lord wasn't greedy and knew how to speak. This was a form of self-protection. When encountering a powerhouse outside, the best way was to lower one's head. As long as one didn't provoke a powerhouse, one wouldn't be bothered to kill. It would only dirty one's hands. In simple terms, what is the situation here? I want all the information. For example, the situation in this area and the distribution of all the forces. Yi Tianyun was asking about the overall situation here. The cultivation of the 7 divine kings was low, but they seemed to have lived for a long time. They would more or less know some things. A strange look flashed past the eyes of the 7 divine kings. To be able to ask such a question, they were either not from this world or had lived in seclusion for many years. In his opinion, it was most likely the latter. The powerhouses who had lived in seclusion for many years had come out today. Reporting to Heavenly Immortal, this place is called the Ancient Sacred Palace. It is an ancient sacred palace from a long time ago and is the strongest force in the Kai Yuan divine territory. I heard that the War of Gods started back then. It seems that they provoked God Emperor Deng Feng, which led to the destruction of the ancient sacred palace. After the primordial sacred palace was destroyed by God Emperor Deng Feng, it disappeared without a trace. At the same time, there was an additional crystal barrier. Furthermore, it warned this side that whoever destroys this crystal barrier or passes through it will be killed without mercy. Since then, no one dared to go to the region of the crystal barrier. No one even dared to clear the ancient sacred palace. With just a few simple sentences, Yi Tianyun's heart was in turmoil. He did not expect that such destruction would be caused by God Emperor Deng Feng. However, he did not feel any attack aura of a God Emperor. It was only the power of a half-step God Emperor. Why don't I feel the attack aura of a God Emperor from here? Yi Tianyun looked at him with a sharp gaze that almost pierced through his eyes. The 7 divine kings trembled and hurriedly explained, "I am not lying to Heavenly Immortal. Back then, when God Emperor Deng Feng destroyed the ancient sacred palace, he was only a half-step God Emperor. When he destroyed the ancient sacred palace, he only broke through to become a God Emperor. Out of respect, I have always called him God Emperor Deng Feng. I dare not disrespect my ancestors. Half-step God Emperor, fighting against the entire ancient sacred palace. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. After destroying the ancient sacred palace, he broke through to become a god emperor. Along the way, there were so many heavenly gods and half-step god emperors, but they were all killed by one person. From this, one could see how terrifying God Emperor Dengfeng was. The key was that after destroying the ancient sacred palace, he broke through to become a god emperor. He believed that God Emperor Dengfeng did not devour them like the evil spirit race did. He believed that God Emperor Dengfeng did not devour them like the evil spirit race did. After God Emperor Dengfeng broke through, no one dared to seek revenge on him, right? Yi Tianyun smiled. That's right. When God Emperor Dengfeng destroyed the ancient sacred palace, there were still many experts outside. They wanted to come back for revenge, but God Emperor Dengfeng broke through. At that time, the entire Kai Yuan divine realm was silent and no one dared to touch him. The 7 divine kings said in high spirits as if they had broken through themselves. Chapter 1808. Yi Tianyun imagined the scene back then. It must have been very shocking. So many experts were swept away, and in the end, they were forced to lower their heads. Hearing it made one's blood boil. I wonder what mistake the ancient sacred palace made at that time? Yi Tianyun continued to ask. The 7 divine kings answered truthfully. His 2 disciples were kneeling on the ground, unable to get up. But their eyes were fixed on the 2 treasures. They were very tempted. Their sex conditions were not very good. They did not even have many heavenly Tao-level treasures. If they could take one away, they would be overjoyed. Soon, Yi Tianyun knew the general situation. This place was called Kai Yuan God Domain. It was the general name of a god domain. It was the general name of the inner god domain and outer god domain. It was just that the inner god domain was divided into many forces. Strictly speaking, it was just a god domain. There were also many forces here. There were also half-step god emperors. There were also large sects. As for god emperors, they naturally did not exist. Everything here was not much different from the god domain. Everyone was cultivating and what not. But no matter how strong they cultivated, they did not dare to approach this place. They did not dare to touch the crystal barrier. Everything was because of God Emperor Dengfeng. They did not dare to casually go over. They did not know that God Emperor Dengfeng was still on the other side of the crystal barrier. If he was, casually charging over would bring about a disaster. This could be seen from the mistakes of the ancient sacred palace. Whoever dared to touch it would bring about such a tragic result. From what the 7 divine kings said, the reason why the ancient sacred palace provoked God Emperor Dengfeng was that the ancient sacred palace had done something that angered both humans and gods. As for the details, he really did not know. Kai Yuan God Domain, Kai Yuan World. Yi Tianyun finally understood what the main mission meant. In theory, he could be considered to have ruled the entire world. The inner god domain and outer god domain were his world. Only Fan Yu did not control it. But it was easy to control it. He just had to send a few experts down. Originally, he planned to implement it after a period of time. That way, he could complete the entire main mission. Now, it seemed that ruling the entire Kaiyuan world also included this place. The general name of this world was Kai Yuan World. There was no divine realm or divine realm. It could be called Kai Yuan Divine Realm or Kai Yuan World. This was a whole entity, not divided into several regions. In other words, there was no distinction between the Fan Yu and the God Domain. In fact, it was just the Kai Yuan God Domain. It was that simple. It was just that everything was complicated by God Emperor Dengfeng. He even built a crystal barrier here, causing the energy from this side to be unable to pass through. Yi Tianyun did not explore this area, but he believed that this area was definitely wider than Fan Yu's, and had more cores. This way, they could nurture more geniuses. Fan Yu's side had fewer geniuses, and after the separation, the number of geniuses would be even fewer. In a situation where the energy was not rich, it would not be easy to nourish the other planets. God Emperor Dengfeng, it is highly possible that the bloodline of the Heaven Creator race is related to God Emperor Dengfeng. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes. He saw that this crystal barrier was created by God Emperor Dengfeng. Only the Heaven Creator race could create a crystal barrier. Now that the barrier in front of him was created by God Emperor Dengfeng, it was basically equivalent to God Emperor Dengfeng being the ancestor of the Heaven Creator race. The Heaven Creator race, no wonder they are the race with the strongest bloodline. With the bloodline of God Emperor Dengfeng, how weak can they be? Yi Tianyun shook his head. He roughly knew the ins and outs, but he did not know why God Emperor Dengfeng started a massacre. As Yi Tianyun was thinking, the 7 divine kings stood at the side respectfully. They did not have any complaints, nor did they dare to have any complaints. After a moment, Yi Tianyun looked at him and said, "Not bad, the information you provided is quite detailed. This treasure belongs to you." With that, Yi Tianyun flew away. He did not continue to stay there, nor did he take the treasure away. Heavenly Tao treasures were really not worth much to him. He could have as many as he wanted. He had killed so many evil spirit race beings and obtained so many treasures. He did not know how many heavenly venerate spiritual treasures he had. As for heavenly Tao treasures, he did not care about them at all. He still searched for a long time before he found a heavenly Tao treasure in his inventory. If he gave them a heavenly venerate spiritual treasure, they might not even be able to use it. If he gave it to them, they might even be killed. Thank you, exalted immortal. The 7 divine kings were in a daze. In the blink of an eye, Yi Tianyun disappeared in front of them. Only then did they react. They knelt on the ground and bowed deeply. Then, they picked up the treasure with trembling hands. After a brief examination, they said excitedly, "This is a high-grade heavenly Tao treasure. In our sect, it would be considered a cornerstone treasure." They were also incomparably excited. This was a high-grade heavenly Tao treasure. Even their sect didn't have such a high-grade item. At most, it was a mid-grade heavenly Tao treasure, which was already a sect-protecting treasure. Now that there was a high-grade heavenly Tao treasure, it was even more powerful than the one in the sect. "Master, it seems like we haven't found the treasure yet. Instead, we've been given a treasure. Moreover, all we did was say a few words. Isn't this too easy to earn?" The 2 disciples were extremely excited, especially when they saw that the item wasn't taken away. No matter what, the harvest this time is not small. Let's hurry back now. The 7 divine kings were not greedy and continued to search here. Only the heavens knew if they would meet other villains. If they were to be robbed, they would be finished. Yi Tianyun did not think too much about it and directly flew to another area. He did not leave immediately, but first investigated the super-old sacred palace to see if there were any clues. After looking around, he did not find anything. Sure enough, everything had been taken away. On the way, he also saw people like the 7 divine kings who came to search for treasures. There were many of them. When they saw Yi Tianyun, they could not be bothered with him. As long as he did not provoke them, they would naturally not provoke him. Looks like there's nothing to see here. It's time to ask for the yin-yang core. The purpose of Yi Tianyun coming here was to find the yin-yang core. In any case, there was no danger here, and they would not invade Fan Yu or anything like that. None of them dared to approach. Right now, he just wanted the yin-yang core. What was there to unify the Kai Yuan world? When he broke through to the God Emperor realm, unifying this place would not be difficult. Immediately, he headed towards the strongest force here, Black-White Divine Palace. Chapter 1809. Yi Tianyun did not hurry to the Yin-Yang Palace. Instead, he used the teleportation Divine Stone to return to Fan Yu. As expected, the thick crystal barrier did not affect the teleportation Divine Stone at all. He easily returned to his original spot. At this moment, he saw Huan Mingyu discussing something with the other domain lords. They seemed to be waiting for the other domain lords to gather here before heading to the Kai Yuan divine territory together. "I'm back." Yi Tianyun flew over with a smile. When Huan Mingyu saw Yi Tianyun, her eyes widened as though she had seen a ghost. She jumped up. You really came back." Huan Mingyu was dumbfounded. She had thought that Yi Tianyun had made it up to prevent her from going. Now that Yi Tianyun had really come back, the crystal barrier did not affect him at all. "I said I could come back on my own, but you did not believe me. Yi Tianyun did not explain much. He came to the other domain lords and said, I have a general understanding of the situation at the crystal barrier. There's no danger there, and God Emperor Deng Feng also cultivated there. I see. The Fector domain lord also came over. How could he miss out on such a matter? I came here a long time ago. When I saw the crystal barrier, I did not go near it. I could not cross it anyway. Seems like the good stuff is over there. Evidently, they all knew about the crystal barrier. They just could not cross it. Naturally, they could not determine the situation there. Then, Yi Tianyun explained the situation to them. When they heard it, they were all shocked. Especially when they heard that Emperor Deng Feng had fought the ancient sacred palace head-on. After flattening the ancient sacred palace, he had directly broken through to Emperor God. Perhaps he had undone something in his heart, allowing his comprehension to improve greatly. Only then could he break through. They immediately determined Deng Feng's situation. This kind of situation where the knot in his heart was untied and he broke through, let alone Deng Feng, even they had experienced similar situations. For example, accomplishing something big or killing an enemy could allow one to break through. This was a situation where one's thoughts were clear. Only when one's thoughts were clear could one be enlightened. Ian, you can go now. There's no danger there. However, there are many powerful forces there, so we have to be careful. Yi Tianyun looked at them and said, Of course. We're not going there to take revenge. We're just going there to take a look at the situation there. At the same time, we'll check out the deeds of the ascended God Emperor. It might be of great help to us. They smiled knowingly. Finally, they could find some clues. It was just that they had to go through a lot of trouble. Following this, Huan Mingyu once again opened the tunnel. This time, he didn't have to worry as much. He opened the tunnel in one go and let them pass quickly. In the end, Huan Mingyu followed along, and the crystal barrier naturally closed up again. When they arrived and saw the dilapidated holy palace, they all let out gasps of surprise. Each and every one of them was incomparably shocked. They had to admit that when the primordial sacred palace was at its peak, it really crushed all the forces in the god domain. It was practically equivalent to a grade 6 god domain. Although there was no such thing as a grade 6 god domain, judging from the scale, it was no longer equivalent to a grade 5 god domain. However, such a powerful god domain was flattened by the ascended god emperor. At that time, he wasn't even an ascended god emperor. From this, it could be seen how heaven-defying ascended god emperor was before he broke through. You guys go on your own. I'll make a trip to the black-white divine palace to get some things. Yi Tianyun told them his plan. They would definitely go on their own, not as a group. They weren't going to fight, so there was no need to go together. If they went together, it would be really conspicuous. How could a group of Empyrean gods not be conspicuous? I'll go with you. Huan Mingyu hurriedly followed. She didn't want to go with the other region lords. Only Yi Tianyun could make her feel at ease. All right. Yi Tianyun didn't say much. Huan Mingyu didn't have a close relationship with the other region lords. Naturally, it wouldn't be good to go with them. Anyway, they were going to the black-white divine palace to get something, so bringing Huan Mingyu along was not a big deal. Immediately, the two of them went directly to the black-white divine palace. After confirming the destination, Yi Tianyun quickly led her there. The area where the black-white divine palace was located was not far from the immemorial sacred palace. It could be said that it was quite close. In less than a few days, they arrived very quickly. When they arrived at the black-white divine palace, a black and a white revolving palace floated in front of them. One side was black, one side was white, and they slowly rotated. Dense yin and yang energy was released from within the black-white divine palace. Finally, above the black-white divine palace, it formed a black and white totem that enveloped the area. Black-white divine palace. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He had finally found the yin and yang core. With a sweep of the appraisal eye, he knew that there was an incomparably huge 8th grade yin and yang core buried inside the black-white divine palace. Its grade was astonishing. This kind of foundation really gave him a fright. In the god domain, he had never seen an 8th grade core. And now this 8th grade core was an extremely precious yin and yang core. It seemed that the hometown of Emperor Deng Feng was very rich. Or rather, without the interference of the evil spirit race, this place was still relatively rich. The god domain had always been attacked by the evil spirit race, and it was difficult to be rich. All the major cores had been devoured by the evil spirit race, leaving nothing behind. On the other hand, it was a great blessing that this side was not attacked. If the evil spirit race attacked the god domain, this would be the last line of defense of the Kai Yuan world. If they were attacked, the Kai Yuan world would be completely occupied. What a dense yin and yang energy. A long time ago, the evil spirit race also liked to devour yin and yang cores, so there are basically no yin and yang cores there. Huan Mingyu shook his head. Otherwise, Yi Tianyun would not have deliberately come here to get it. It's okay, as long as we can get it here. The grade doesn't need to be too high, just a 5th grade one will do. Yi Tianyun was in a good mood. It was enough to find the yin and yang core. Then, he brought Huan Mingyu to the front of the Black-White Divine Palace. Just as he approached, the guards of the Black-White Divine Palace, one white and one black, directly intercepted him and said coldly, "Who are you? What business do you have in my palace?" The two guards were not weak, and their cultivation was at the heavenly venerable level. They mainly cultivated the yin and yang energy, which made their power even more domineering. "I am here to exchange for the yin and yang core. I can exchange for it with any reward." Yi Tianyun was rich and overbearing. It was not a problem for him to exchange for it with more than a dozen heavenly venerable spirit treasures. "How dare you blaspheme our yin-yang divine palace? You are courting death." The two guards didn't listen to reason at all. Black and white energies bombarded him. Yi Tianyun's face darkened. He took a step forward and said coldly, "Kneel." Chapter 18:10. Yi Tianyun looked at the guards coldly. He was just asking a question, but they charged at him without saying anything. This was too much. "Bastard, do you know where you are? How dare you offend our Black-White Divine Palace?" The two guards knew they were no match for him, but they were still stubborn and refused to lower their heads. They would never admit their mistakes. "Am I offending your Black-White Divine Palace? I just want to exchange for the yin-yang core, even if it's of a lower grade. It's not like I'm exchanging for your biggest core. How am I offending you?" Yi Tianyun was enraged. He had asked nicely, but now he was offending them. "The yin-yang core belongs to us. You dare to use it to exchange for our sacred relic? That's blasphemy." The guards yelled, still unwilling to lower their heads. "What?" Yi Tianyun frowned. "The yin-yang core is a product of heaven and earth. It doesn't belong to anyone. Are you mistaken? How dare you? This is the sacred relic of our Black-White Divine Palace. No one can take it away. I was just asking. If you don't want to exchange, then don't exchange. Is there a need to be so arrogant? And no one can take it. Are you saying that all the yin-yang cores I find outside belong to you?" Yi Tianyun couldn't help but laugh. This was like rice was exclusive to one's family. If others couldn't eat it, they couldn't even ask about it. "That's right. As long as it's a yin-yang core, it belongs to our Black-White Divine Palace. Whoever doesn't hand it over will die." The guards yelled, "Surrender and kneel, and we will spare your lives." Scram! Yi Tianyun slapped them and sent them flying. They were seriously injured and vomited blood. It was unknown if they were still alive. Just based on their words, Yi Tianyun had the right to slap them to death. This Black-White Divine Palace is really overbearing. Even if it's the #1 force in the Kai Yuan Divine Realm, it's strange for them to be so arrogant. Yi Tianyun was so angry that he laughed. He had never seen someone so overbearing. Even the Sword Edge Region Lord and the others were not so overbearing. This Black-White Divine Palace was so cruel. They found the yin-yang core outside and didn't hand it over. Who gave them the guts? Was it because he was the #1 Divine Palace that he was so confident? Could it be that all the cultivators in the elemental divine realm are like this? Huan Mingyu frowned. He had a very bad feeling about this divine realm. That's not the case. I reckon only the Black-White Divine Palace is like that. Yi Tianyun frowned. Just as he was about to say something, an expert flew out. Audacious! Who dares to injure my black-white divine palace's guards? The one who flew out was a lower heavenly deity. His level didn't seem low, and he glared at him furiously. I only came to ask if the yin-yang core can be exchanged with other spirit treasures, such as an Empyrean spirit treasure or a sky god spirit treasure. If you are willing to exchange, then so be it. Your guards didn't say anything and immediately attacked. Is this how the black-white divine palace treats its guests? Yi Tianyun's voice was cold. His impression of the black-white divine palace had become extremely bad. At the same time, he recalled that when the 7 divine kings mentioned the black-white divine palace, there was a hint of awe in their eyes and a hint of disgust in their voices. It seemed that it was indeed a disgusting black-white divine palace. The 7 divine kings probably didn't think that Yi Tianyun would go to the black-white divine palace. They didn't say much about it, and they didn't dare to spread rumors. Yi Tianyun judged that the 7 divine kings should be the conservative type. They wouldn't spread rumors if they could. They would lower their heads when they encountered experts and choose to protect themselves. If they spread rumors, what if Yi Tianyun had an affair with the black-white divine palace? Or what if it spread to the black-white divine palace? At that time, they would probably be killed. What a joke! Regardless of the grade of the yin-yang core, it is a sacred item of the black-white divine palace. How can it be measured by treasures? The elder glared at him and said, saying such words is blasphemy to the black-white divine palace. Hand over all the treasures and break your own legs, and I will spare your lives. Retard! Yi Tianyun slapped the elder angrily and turned him into a mist of blood. The elder didn't even have time to react before he died. I've seen overbearing people, but I've never seen someone so unreasonable and overbearing. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He felt that the black-white divine palace was really disgusting. They dared to ask him to break his own legs and hand over the treasures. Wasn't this a fool's dream? This scene stunned the cultivators passing by. Among them, the 7 divine kings happened to pass by. When they saw this scene, they were also stunned. My God, isn't that the exalted immortal? What is he doing? How dare he kill the elder of the black-white divine palace? The 7 divine kings were dumbfounded. Master, this exalted immortal is too bold. The black-white divine palace is so overbearing. How dare he offend them? Ji Qiu was speechless. That's right. After killing the elder of the black-white divine palace, I'm afraid there's no way to deal with the aftermath. I remember someone injured a guard last time, and it seems like his entire family was slaughtered. Xiao Yu was so scared that her face turned pale. She seemed to have imagined Yi Tianyun's ending. Not just them, even the cultivators passing by shook their heads. Although I don't know where this exalted immortal is from, I'm afraid this exalted immortal is dead. Hurry up and inform the others to come over and see what's going on. Something big has happened. One by one, they hurriedly formed hand seals or used their messenger tokens to send a message to their companions, asking them to come over and watch the show. No matter where it was, there would never be too many spectators. The 7 divine kings hesitated for a while and finally made up his mind. He quickly flew to the front and sent a voice transmission from a distance. Exalted immortal, hurry up and run. Hide as far as you can. The black-white divine palace is the most overbearing in the Kai Yuan celestial territory. They will annihilate anyone they don't like. Someone injured an arrogant disciple of the black-white divine palace, and his entire family was slaughtered. Now that you have killed an elder, I'm afraid the black-white divine palace will annihilate your entire family. The 7 divine kings felt that since he had accepted Yi Tianyun's treasures, it was necessary for him to kindly remind him. After all, it was a voice transmission, so the black-white divine palace would not know about it. Annihilate my entire family? Yi Tianyun was furious. I want to see who dares to annihilate my entire family. How can the black-white divine palace be so arrogant? He really did not want to leave. He had come over in a friendly manner, but he did not expect the black-white divine palace to be so arrogant. The first thing they said was to suppress him, to force him to kneel down and break his own legs. Even if an ordinary force was unhappy, they would at most chase him away. These fellows directly started to kill him. They were simply too arrogant. After so many years in the divine territory, other than the evil spirit race, the black-white divine palace was the most ruthless. Chapter 1811. It was impossible for Yi Tianyun to escape. Especially in the face of such a domineering black-white divine palace, he wanted to stay here and see how domineering they could be. Thank you for the reminder. Later, please stay away so that you won't be affected. Yi Tianyun also transmitted his voice to the 7 divine kings. He did not look in their direction, in case other cultivators saw him and thought that the 7 divine kings were his companions. Deep down, he was quite grateful to Sir God Diamond 7. Under such circumstances, it was quite rare for him to give him a reminder. Exalted Immortal, please don't be impulsive. The black-white divine palace was actually the ancient sacred palace. It was created by the experts left behind by the ancient sacred palace. Their foundation is far from what you think, the 7 divine kings hurriedly advised. Created by the experts left behind by the ancient sacred palace? Yi Tianyun's eyes darkened. I understand. In that case, it's even more impossible for me to leave. Let's end the conversation here. They're here. The 7 divine kings shook his head and did not try to persuade him anymore. Since Yi Tianyun was so determined, what else could he do to persuade him? He could only obediently retreat a distance with his disciples, not daring to get too close. Master, did you persuade the exalted immortal? Xiaoye asked curiously. Yes, I did. However, the exalted immortal was not worried. It seems that he wants to fight the black-white divine palace to the end. The 7 divine kings sighed deeply. Those who fought with the black-white divine palace were all destroyed in the end, unless the God Emperor Dengfeng returned. The black-white divine palace was the ancient sacred palace. When he heard this news, Yi Tianyun finally understood why the God Emperor Dengfeng would destroy the ancient sacred palace. The situation of the ancient sacred palace was probably similar to that of the black-white divine palace. They were both extremely domineering. As long as they wanted it, they would snatch it. For such a domineering and disgusting force, the God Emperor Dengfeng was the savior of this world. However, after destroying the ancient sacred palace, they sealed it. It was unclear why they did this. Seems like I'll have to become a God Emperor for once. Yi Tianyun smiled as he looked at the experts rushing over. Become an Emperor God? Huan Mingyu, who was standing beside him, felt puzzled. However, she was not worried about Yi Tianyun's safety. That was an existence that could even crush the evil emperor, an expert that could even block the attack of the evil spirit emperor. This meant that as long as it wasn't a god emperor, he would be able to suppress them. Moreover, she had already crushed a jade talisman to inform the Fector domain lord and the others to hurry over. To let them know that Yi Tianyun was not the only one fighting alone. How dare you? How dare you kill an elder of our black-white divine palace? Surrender now, or you will die without a burial. Groups of heavenly deities slaughtered their way out. The first to arrive was a group of powerful elders, all of them mainly cultivating yin and yang power. Of course, there were also elders of other attributes. Not all of them were experts of the yin and yang powers. Thus, the black-white divine palace probably did not have many cultivators. Elder Yinyun was the leader. He was a late-stage intermediate heavenly god and mainly cultivated yin and yang power. As soon as he stepped out, a vigorous yin and yang power circulated, like a Tai Chi symbol, quickly enveloping the surroundings and forming a domain. Surrender without a fight. What a joke. Yi Tianyun said coldly, your black-white divine palace is too overbearing. I was just asking casually, but you want to snatch my treasure and break my legs. Your black-white divine palace is really overbearing. Do you really think that the origin divine realm is your world? That's right, the origin divine realm is our world. Whether it's right or wrong, it's up to us to decide. Either submit or die. Elder Yinyun looked at him proudly, as if he was a superior existence. So the black-white divine palace is not called that because it mainly cultivates yin and yang power. Instead, it's up to you to decide the truth. Yi Tianyun shook his head. It seems that the primordial sacred palace was not destroyed by God Emperor Dengfeng without reason. A group of tyrannical forces that invert black and white must be destroyed. Aren't you afraid that God Emperor Dengfeng will destroy you when he returns? How dare you speak nonsense? It seems that if I don't cut you into pieces, I don't know what force you've offended. Elder Yinyun and the others shouted angrily, their eyes filled with murderous intent. The expressions of the cultivators watching from the side changed. This was the dark history of the Black-White Divine Palace, and it was actually exposed by Yi Tianyun. How could they have a good expression? This guy really wants to die. I wonder where he came from. He doesn't know what's good for him. The Black-White Divine Palace doesn't dare to speak nonsense. Whoever speaks nonsense will die. God knows how long they've been overbearing. If only God Emperor Dengfeng returned. Sure, don't speak nonsense. If you want to die, don't bring me along, but God Emperor Dengfeng can't return. He's probably dead. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Yinyun and the others swarmed forward, no longer talking to Yi Tianyun. Touching on their unbearable past would definitely enrage them. Then today, I'll replace God Emperor Dengfeng and clean them up again. Yi Tianyun sneered. The dragon god demon spear appeared in his hand, and he was ready for battle. Replace God Emperor Dengfeng? Even if God Emperor Dengfeng really comes, he'll still die. Elder Yinyun and the others were mad with anger. They had probably not been suppressed for too long that they were not afraid of the scars left behind by God Emperor Dengfeng. This was a classic example of forgetting the pain after the scar healed. Annihilate. Yi Tianyun swept up a stream of light, and as it slowly dissipated, it swept past the group of elders that pounced on him. In the next moment, he appeared behind the group of elders, holding the dragon god demon spear as if he had not moved at all. The group of elders froze in mid-air, their bodies stiff, unable to move. No, impossible. In the next second, their bodies turned into dust, annihilated in this void, no longer existing. In an instant, 7 to 8 elders were killed, and they were all heavenly god-level elders. They died just like that. This scene stunned the cultivators who thought that Yi Tianyun was dead for sure. They could not believe what they had just seen. He killed all the elders in one move. What kind of power was that? Too scary. Could he really be God Emperor Dengfeng's reincarnation? *T. Maybe God Emperor Dengfeng is still alive, and he might be God Emperor Dengfeng's successor. That's very believable. If he really is God Emperor Dengfeng's successor, then, they could see hope in each other's eyes. The Black-White Divine Palace had always ruled this area, taking all the good resources for themselves. They could not stand such tyrannical behavior. However, they were powerless to resist and could only choose to accept it in silence. Chapter 1812. Diamond 7 Divine Monarchs and the others, who originally thought that Yi Tianyun was too reckless, were shocked when they saw this scene. They stared at the situation with their eyes wide open, and their hearts were surging like a stormy sea. They were completely dumbfounded. There were so many experts, but they didn't even get a clear look before they were easily killed in a second. How was this killing a divine realm expert? It was as easy as killing a chicken or a dog. The exalted immortal is too strong. Is he really the reincarnation of Emperor Dengfeng, or the successor of Emperor Dengfeng? The 7 divine kings looked at Yi Tianyun, who was holding the demonic spear of the dragon god. Yi Tianyun's entire body had blended into the void, and he did not look sad or happy. They could not sense any terrifying aura from him, but he was capable of doing terrifying things. So many divine realm experts had been easily killed. No one had expected it. If he is not the reincarnation of Emperor Dengfeng, or the successor of Emperor Dengfeng, who else could be so strong? The disciples of the 7 divine kings also stared blankly. This terrifying combat strength had far exceeded their imagination. They had never seen such a terrifying existence. The originally high and mighty existence was killed in one move. They could not even block a single move. Fellow Daoist, you should not have come to my Black-White Divine Palace, and you should not have killed my elder. A faintly discernible voice came from within. Then, a shadow appeared beside the door. An old man with a walking stick stood in front of them, staring coldly at Yi Tianyun. It's Elder Bai Yang. It's really Elder Bai Yang, the top elder of the Black-White Divine Palace. He is an upper heavenly god, or even a half-step god emperor. I'm afraid that the exalted immortal will not be able to withstand it. Elder Bai Yang never makes a move, but when he does, blood will flow like a river. A half-step God Emperor. Anyone below the upper heavenly God level is an ant. I'm afraid that the exalted immortal is finished. It's not rational to fight alone. If he had cultivated for a while longer, he might have been able to flatten the ancient sacred palace like Emperor Deng Feng. When they saw the old man, their faces turned pale and they backed away, not daring to touch him. Half-step God Emperor, an invincible existence, usually wouldn't act. Unless it was a crucial moment, otherwise, he wouldn't act. This was especially so for Elder Bai Yang's reputation, which had spread far and wide. When he heard about it, his expression changed greatly. Just a bunch of stubborn old fellows, distorting the truth. Do you really think that no one in this world can do anything to you? Yi Tianyun shook his head. He looked at Elder Bai Yang, who stood high and mighty, and felt that it was somewhat laughable. At least you can't cure us. Elder Bai Yang released the power of Yang in his body, and his entire body turned into a scorching sun. Everything he touched melted, and the terrifying power of heat turned into a sun domain, enveloping the position that Yi Tianyun occupied. Burn to ashes and dissipate from this world. Elder Bai Yang reached into the void, and a scorching divine light pressed down. The terrifying heat caused many cultivators, who had retreated far away, to instantly be drenched in sweat. They were already so far away, but they could still feel the terrifying heat. If they were to go slightly closer, they would be instantly burned. They looked up at Elder Bai Yang, who was like a resplendent sun, and they couldn't look straight at him. How dare you be so presumptuous with just a tiny bit of light? Yi Tianyun snorted coldly, and he swung his hand in the void. He gathered a powerful force, and it turned into a giant hand that slapped down, covering the dazzling divine light. At the same time, it slapped down towards the sun that was Elder Bai Yang. A look of horror flashed in Elder Bai Yang's eyes. His attack had been suppressed just like that. When he wanted to resist, the palm had already slapped down, covering him and flattening him to the ground. Boom! The originally resplendent light became dim, and it turned into a pile of minced meat. The terrifying Elder Bai Yang was slapped to death just like that, and he couldn't even block it. This was equivalent to a dazzling sun being extinguished just like that. For a moment, the audience was dumbfounded, and the entire place went silent. The insufferably arrogant Elder Bai Yang, the famous Elder Bai Yang, was slapped to death just like that. After everyone recovered, they gasped. It could be said that they felt a chill from head to toe. It was clearly very hot just now, but now, they couldn't help but shiver. Could this mysterious exalted immortal really be able to destroy the black-white divine palace? Like an ant. Yi Tianyun shook his head, lifted his feet, and walked inside. Let me pay a proper visit to this black-white divine palace, and witness the strongest existence in the celestial territory. I want to see what other trump cards they have. I am Yi Tianyun, and I am here to pay a visit. Yi Tianyun took one step at a time, and with every step he took, there was a terrifying force that spread out from the soles of his feet. The outer door instantly collapsed, and following that, the palaces by the side collapsed one by one, as though they were made of tofu. How was this a visit? This was simply demolishing the house. Yi Tianyun indeed wanted to demolish the house, and he wanted to completely flatten this place. Just like when he ascended to become an emperor god, he wanted to completely flatten the entire force. Huan Mingyu looked back, and when she saw their dumbfounded expressions, she smiled knowingly. Alliance Master can even slightly suppress an emperor god. A mere half-step emperor god is nothing. She smiled and followed them in, ignoring the cultivators outside. After they entered, the other cultivators looked at each other, and they didn't know if they should follow them in to take a look. But if he were to barge in recklessly, he might die. But if they didn't take a look, they wouldn't be able to witness all of this. Some bold cultivators flew forward, and they kept comforting themselves. The door has been flattened, and this is no longer the territory of the black-white divine palace. It can only be considered as the outer area. It's okay to go in and take a look. When someone took the lead, the rest followed. They were really curious, and they really wanted to see the black-white divine palace flattened. They had been suppressed by the black-white divine palace for too long, And now that there was finally someone who could help them clean up, how could they not want to witness all of this? Master, should we go in and take a look? Ji Qiu and the rest looked over, and they asked for their master's opinion. The 7 divine kings hesitated for a while, then nodded and said, "Okay, we will follow behind them. If anything goes wrong, we will immediately escape." They chose to follow behind, and if something went wrong, they would immediately escape. They also wanted to see if Yi Tianyun could flatten this force like Emperor God Dengfeng. Yi Tianyun didn't care about what was behind him, and he destroyed the buildings of the black-white divine palace with every step he took. Then, he went in majestically. 1 person against 100, suppressing everything. Chapter 1813. Yi Tianyun continued to crush his way in, followed by a group of cultivators. However, they were very far away and did not dare to approach at all. Not only were they afraid of the black-white divine palace, but they were also afraid of being affected by Yi Tianyun's attack, so they were very far away. As he crushed his way in, the palaces inside collapsed one after another, and the disciples inside all screamed and ran out. When they saw the destroyer, their faces turned pale and they hurriedly ran inside, not daring to confront Yi Tianyun head-on. Looking at this formation, they could not even get close to Yi Tianyun, let alone resist him. One by one, the disciples fled to seek reinforcements. Not long after, another group of heavenly gods surged out, and this time, the number was even more astonishing. Suddenly, more than 20 heavenly gods and more than 30 heavenly venerables surged out, and they collectively stood in front of him, a terrifying aura pressing down on him. Yi Tianyun did not feel anything, but the many cultivators behind him retreated one after another. When they saw this group of powerhouses, their faces turned ugly. The black-white divine palace is indeed the black-white divine palace. Their foundation is so strong, whether it is the number of heavenly gods or heavenly venerables, they are the best in the Kaiyuan divine realm. When they saw so many heavenly gods and heavenly venerables, they wailed in their hearts. Although Yi Tianyun's performance was astonishing, it was difficult for 2 fists to fight 4 hands, and it was not just 4 hands, there were also existences like Elder by Yang among them. I almost forgot that the black-white divine palace is probably a little stronger than the primordial sacred palace. There are too many powerhouses. Look at Elder Blackwater, Elder Yu, Elder Shitian. They all trembled. Previously, they had been blinded by victory, but after carefully calming down and thinking about it, Yi Tianyun was facing the black-white divine palace, which was even stronger than the primordial sacred palace that God Emperor Dengfeng had faced back then. The newly established forces of the primordial sacred palace were cautious at first, but when they found out that God Emperor Dengfeng was not coming back, they all continued to be arrogant. They endlessly plundered treasures and spirit herbs, rapidly fattening them up. After so many years, the black-white divine palace was naturally overflowing with wealth. Under such circumstances, there were naturally many powerhouses, which was also the reason why the black-white divine palace was overbearing. Under the suppression of absolute power, how could they not be domineering? Even if he could do whatever he wanted in the Kaiyuan divine domain, no one would dare to stop him. How dare you trespass into the black-white divine palace and kill so many of our elders? I don't know which faction you are from, but no matter what faction you are from, if you dare to blaspheme our black-white divine palace, you will be sentenced to death. Elder Blackwater was hot-tempered. He roared at him, capture him, search his soul and extract all his memories. Even if I die, I'll make him wish he was dead. So many of his comrades had been killed, killing Yi Tianyun would be letting him off too easily. Oh, no matter which faction it is, it's a capital offense. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly and said, "What if I'm the direct disciple of God Emperor Dengfeng and I'm here to clean up the mess?" As soon as these words were spoken, the pupils of Elder Blackwater and the others who were about to charge constricted, and they actually froze. They didn't dare to take another step forward. The title of God Emperor Dengfeng was simply their nightmare, so much so that they didn't dare to return to the primordial sacred palace. The area of the primordial sacred palace was actually the best. If they could go back and rebuild it, it would definitely be the best. However, that place had always been their nightmare, so how could they dare to go back and rebuild it? Now that this name was mentioned once again, it caused their hearts to shrink. It was as if there was an invisible force strangling their hearts. Even if you are the direct disciple of God Emperor Dengfeng, you will still be killed. Elder Blackwater's gaze suddenly turned cold. He raised his sword and pointed it at him, saying coldly, "All of you, go and capture him alive." Elder Blackwater, but he is the disciple of God Emperor Dengfeng. Fear flashed across the eyes of the elders beside him. The title of God Emperor Dengfeng had always been lingering in their minds. What are you afraid of? Palace Master just sent a sound transmission. If he really is the disciple of God Emperor Dengfeng, he would have already returned. Why would he send a disciple over? This kid is very likely to be fooling us. Even if he really is the disciple of God Emperor Dengfeng, he will still be killed. Elder Blackwater smiled coldly at Yi Tianyun. How wonderful would it be to strip away all of God Emperor Dengfeng's inheritances? Since Palace Master has said so, then let's capture him alive. The eyes of the other elders lit up. Many of them were unable to move an inch. God Emperor Dengfeng was a God Emperor, his inheritance was definitely astonishing, and it was even possible for him to become a God Emperor. If they could capture Yi Tianyun and search through his memories, wouldn't that allow them to improve further? Immediately, their gazes towards Yi Tianyun were filled with greed and desire. Oh, so it was Palace Master who sent a sound transmission. No wonder he was so bold. Yi Tianyun looked at them calmly. He really forgot the pain when the scars healed. Let me reopen these old scars. At the side, Huan Mingyu shook his head. What a bunch of reckless people. Yi Tianyun wasn't a personal disciple of God Emperor Dengfeng. Even if a personal disciple really came, he probably wouldn't be able to beat up Yi Tianyun. Now, they were still thinking about Yi Tianyun's memories. From Huan Mingyue's point of view, Black-White Divine Palace was destined to be destroyed. Kid, I know you have some ability, but do you think you can deal with so many experts by yourself? Just now, Elder Bai Yang was only killed because of your sneak attack. Elder Blackwater sneered, even if God Emperor Dengfeng came again, we can still destroy him. As time passed, they really became more and more arrogant. Probably after so many years, their power had increased greatly, so they naturally felt that they could fight against God Emperor Dengfeng. Of course, when they said God Emperor Dengfeng, it was when they were half-step God Emperor, not when a real God Emperor came. If a real God Emperor came, they would hate their parents for not giving birth to 2 more legs. As soon as he finished speaking, rays of divine light suddenly shone from all directions and landed behind Yi Tianyun. Alliance Master, Zhenfeng is here. Alliance Master, Fector is here. Alliance Master, Cloud Pisser is late. Familiar figures landed behind Yi Tianyun. They were all incomparably powerful heavenly gods. Every ray of light that landed was an extremely powerful heavenly god. When every heavenly god appeared, their pupils shrank. Why did so many peak heavenly god experts suddenly appear? In Kai Yuan Divine Territory, only their Black-White Divine Palace had more heavenly gods. The other forces basically didn't have any heavenly gods. Now that so many heavenly gods suddenly appeared, it was really unbelievable. Chapter 1814. They had just finished talking about Yi Tianyun fighting alone, and in the blink of an eye, a large group of experts came to support them. Each of them was a powerful heaven god. The weakest among them was a middle heaven god, and there were many upper heaven gods. Not only were their cultivations powerful, but their overall strength was also top-notch. After all, they were all domain lords. How could they be weak? The cultivators at the side were shocked, and the elders of the Black-White Divine Palace were even more shocked. They could tell that this group of reinforcements were all powerful heaven gods. They were not inferior to them at all. If they really fought, it was hard to say who would win. Of course, this was referring to their group. The Black-White Divine Palace did not only have this much strength. After all, this was their territory. However, Elder Blackwater had just said that Yi Tianyun had no helpers. Now, a large group of helpers had come. It was undoubtedly a slap in the face. How is this possible? How can there be so many heaven gods in the Kai Yuan divine realm? If there really is such a powerful force, it is impossible that we do not know. Elder Blackwater and the others looked gloomy. They did not expect so many heaven gods to appear. It was not surprising that there were heaven gods. In the vast Kai Yuan divine realm, there were still many heaven gods. However, they had never heard of a situation where they could unite as one and be the leader. If there really was such a powerful force, they should have heard of it. Now that they had suddenly appeared out of nowhere, they really did not know where they came from. All of them were unfamiliar faces. There were many heaven gods, but there were not many in the Kai Yuan divine realm. It was obviously very exaggerated that so many of them were unfamiliar faces. Exalted Immortal has so many helpers. No wonder he is not afraid of the black-white divine palace. The 7 divine kings and the others were very excited. Originally, they thought that Yi Tianyun was at a disadvantage. Now, they were evenly matched. It was undoubtedly a good thing. The rest of the cultivators were delighted. It seemed that the expert who had suddenly appeared did not come to attack the black-white divine palace casually. He had come prepared. Although they were not like Emperor God Dengfeng, who could fight 100 people alone, it was a good thing that they could suppress the black-white divine palace. Even if they couldn't suppress the black-white divine palace, it would be a good thing if they could heavily injure it. To them, it didn't matter if Yi Tianyun and the others lived or died. After all, they weren't the ones dying. What he was most concerned about was whether he could suppress the black-white divine palace. Elder Blackwater and the others calmed down. They looked at him coldly and said, "No wonder you are so confident. It turns out that you have help. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Our black-white divine palace is not afraid of any faction. No matter how many come, we will kill them all." Yi Tianyun looked at Elder Heishure and said indifferently, "You must have misunderstood something. They are not my helpers, and I don't intend to let them intervene. I've said it before. If I say I'll flatten all of you, I'll flatten all of you. If I can't do it, I'll just turn around and leave instead of bringing other experts over to help." As soon as he said that, the other cultivators were dumbfounded. Wasn't he being kicked in the head by a donkey? He had a helper, but he didn't use it. Instead, he personally went into battle. This wasn't confidence. This was idiocy. Elder Blackwater and the others were stunned. Then, they burst into laughter and said, "You really have guts. I admire people like you. I hope you will do what you say." Elder Blackwater had a mocking look on his face. He felt that Yi Tianyun was a joke. He didn't use so many helpers and wanted to do it himself. He made it sound as though he would definitely win. The 7 divine kings and the others were dumbfounded. They originally had a great advantage. How could it be wasted just like that? "Master, why is the Exalted Immortal doing this?" Xiaoye and the others were dumbfounded. They didn't know why Yi Tianyun would do this. They felt that it was too stupid. "I don't know either. This Exalted Immortal's actions are too unexpected. I hope his companions will speak up and persuade him." The 7 divine kings sighed and looked at the Sword Edge Region Master and the others. They wanted to hear what they had to say. The Sword Edge Region Master and the others didn't say a word. They just stood behind Yi Tianyun. They didn't try to persuade him. Instead, they laughed behind him. Come. Let's make a bet. Let's see how long the Alliance Master will take to flatten this faction. I bet that he will flatten this faction in 6 hours. Isn't 6 hours a little long? I bet that it will take 5 hours. 6 hours. I think it is a little short. No matter what, this is a pretty good faction. It will take at least 6 hours, right? One by one, the domain masters started their bets with smiles. The Fector domain master even became the banker and started to count the bets. This stunned the cultivators in the primordial god domain. They didn't try to dissuade him. They were just here to watch the show. Some of the cultivators who hoped that they could dissuade him were instantly disappointed. In their opinion, it wouldn't be easy to deal with so many powerful divine realm experts. Even if Yi Tianyun was very powerful, how long could he suppress the endless stream of divine realm experts? The faces of Elder Blackwater and the others were livid. They didn't look too happy about the bets. It was mainly because the content of the bets was very rude to them. They were betting on how long it would take for them to be wiped out. To be wiped out in 6 hours? Wasn't that too short of a time? They had dozens of divine realm experts and all kinds of arrays. How could they not even withstand 6 hours? What a joke. Good. Then let me see if you can wipe out our black-white divine palace in 6 hours. Although these words didn't come from Yi Tianyun, Elder Blackwater had already taken them as Yi Tianyun's. 6 hours. Yi Tianyun chuckled. This is really a challenge. I wonder if I can complete it in that short time. Don't worry, you won't be able to complete it in such a short time. You will die soon. Elder Blackwater roared angrily. He led the elders behind him and rushed forward, wanting to tear Yi Tianyun apart. After being ignored and provoked like this, their anger had been suppressed to the extreme. The moment they rushed forward, each of them erupted with their strongest power. Waves of yin and yang power pressed down. One black and one white, like night and day. The two superimposed together, forming a power that could destroy heaven and earth. Yi Tianyun swung the dragon god demon spear and rushed forward. He used his crazy mode and a huge dragon god phantom appeared behind him. Then, he gripped the dragon god demon spear tightly and pierced forward. The power he displayed now was 128 times stronger than before. With the demon emperor set and the dragon god bloodline, his overall strength was increased by at least 150 times. Even without the power of faith, he could still achieve the effect of suppression. Die. Just Yi Tianyun alone swept over with an overwhelming pressure. He fiercely rushed down from the void. Everywhere he went, the palaces of the black-white divine palace were annihilated. He hadn't even collided with Elder Blackwater and the others, but their faces were already pale. Chapter 18:15. Elder Blackwater and the rest turned pale. Before they even collided with Yi Tianyun, they felt an unparalleled power pressing down on them. It was as if Yi Tianyun was a dragon god, and their yin and yang powers were just two black and white lights, not even comparable to a dragon's claw. Attack with full force. We have so many people, we're not afraid of him. I don't believe that so many of us can't stop one person. Elder Blackwater gritted his teeth, feeling that Yi Tianyun's power could withstand it. Their black and white yin and yang powers rapidly fused together. The greatest advantage of yin and yang power was that they could fuse together to form a powerful attack. In the blink of an eye, they transformed into a Tai Chi diagram, pressing down on Yi Tianyun. But when this black and white Tai Chi diagram touched the spearhead of the dragon god demon spear, it instantly exploded, turning into black and white light spots, rapidly dissipating into the void. Puff! They all vomited blood, exploding in the air, scattering in all directions. Each and every one of them was like a meteor, crashing to the ground and vomiting blood non-stop. There were no injuries on their bodies, but their insides were a mess. Yi Tianyun's attack nearly shattered their internal organs. The most crucial part was their souls. As if they were bitten, a huge hole was torn open. Each and every one of them was in excruciating pain. They slumped on the ground, already in a half-dead state. Those who were closer were blasted into a mist of blood, and they could not be more dead than they were. One move defeated all the experts. What celestial god, what half-step celestial god, they were like ordinary Empyreans, easily defeated. It was unbelievable. Heavens, are our eyes playing tricks on us? These are all celestial gods, and Elder Blackwater and the other half-step god emperors were defeated in one move. This is the situation. What happened just now? They were all dumbfounded, doubting if they saw wrongly. So many experts were defeated in an instant. Previously, Yi Tianyun defeated several celestial gods in one go. Those were just middle celestial gods, or a mix of lower celestial gods. Even if he had killed Elder Bai Yang in one move, it was built on the fact that he had fought one-on-one with an unexpected attack. Now that they were fighting head-on, they were all middle heavenly gods and above. There were quite a number of upper heavenly gods and 2 half-step god emperors. However, none of them could withstand a single attack from Yi Tianyun, and all of them were defeated. Elder Blackwater, who was in front, was instantly turned into a mist of blood, leaving nothing behind. It was mainly because Elder Blackwater was the vanguard, so he was the first to die. The gods behind him were not killed, but they were heavily injured and could not get up. They were no different from being dead. What kind of power is this? Those who were still alive on the ground sat up with great difficulty and looked at Yi Tianyun with fear in their eyes. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. It's the power to crush you. Yi Tianyun walked forward step by step. He glanced at them indifferently. It had to be said that their strength was not bad. Otherwise, it wouldn't just be a portion of them surviving, but all of them dying. Originally, upper heavenly god level cultivation was already heaven-defying enough. In addition to the crazy damage mode, his combat power was increased by 128 times. These so-called half-step god emperors and upper heavenly gods were just trash. That was equivalent to 128 late upper heavenly gods. To be exact, 128 half-step god emperors, and they were the pinnacle ones. No matter how many there were only a dozen to 20 heavenly gods. Facing the spear formed by over 100 half-step god emperors, who could block it? Of course, their combined strength was not only at this level, but even stronger. Haha, it seems like I will win the bet. With this batch of heavenly gods killed, there shouldn't be many left, right? I definitely won't need 4 hours to kill all of them. That is possible. The domain lords shook their heads and felt that they were going to lose. They had already estimated that the time was short, but it seemed like it could be shorter. At the same time, they were shocked. They could only say that Yi Tianyun had become stronger. Don't be reckless. This is Black-White Divine Palace. If you kill us, the Palace Master will definitely kill you. The surviving heavenly god shouted with a trembling voice. You make it sound like if I don't kill you, your Palace Master won't kill me. Yi Tianyun sneered. He extended his hand and grabbed the void. A huge palm slapped down towards them. Stop! A furious roar came from within Black-White Divine Palace. It caused the cultivators outside to take a few steps back. They almost lost their balance. It's the Palace Master of Black-White Divine Palace. Their eyes were filled with terror. They retreated and didn't dare to take the attack head-on. Hong! The heavy palm continued to slap down. It didn't budge. Under this palm, the remaining heavenly gods that were still alive turned into minced meat. You actually dare to attack? What do you think this place is? The Palace Master of Black-White Divine Palace charged over with murderous intent. He waved his palm and pressed down heavily on Yi Tianyun. The surrounding black-white formation appeared. The yin-yang core at the bottom was spinning crazily. Waves of yin-yang energy gathered on the palm of the Black-White Palace Master. His power was rising crazily. Vaguely, he had the power that surpassed a half-step Emperor God. He had the power that surpassed a half-step Emperor God and was even close to a minor Emperor God. The Black-White Palace Master was indeed the Black-White Palace Master. His cultivation was extremely strong. He could also mobilize the power of the yin-yang core. When the power was superimposed on his body, his power was extraordinary. The cultivators below knelt down and their bodies were trembling. Facing the vast power of the Black-White Palace Master, they couldn't resist at all. Even if they were standing far away, when they felt the power, their legs would go soft. Black-White Palace Master is close to an Emperor God. No wonder he isn't afraid of the descendant of an Emperor God. He is about to break through to an Emperor God and he has such strong power. How can he deal with him? I'm afraid the exalted immortal is finished. The Black-White Palace Master is so strong. He seems to be stronger than before. Their faces turned pale. Some of them turned around and left. They didn't dare to stay any longer. After the Black-White Palace Master killed Yi Tianyun, they would definitely be in trouble. Even if they didn't make a move, as long as they were at the side, they would suffer the wrath of the Black-White Palace Master. What do you think this is? Naturally, it's a rubbish dump. Yi Tianyun snorted coldly and pressed his palm against the Black and White Palace Lord who was rushing towards him. Yi Tianyun's palm smashed the Black and White Palace Lord who was rushing towards him. Yi Tianyun smashed the Black and White Palace Lord from mid-air, creating a big pit on the ground. Hong. Chapter 1816. The seemingly unstoppable Palace Master of Black and White Palace was insta-killed just like that. The cultivators were dumbfounded. Such a powerful move should have been blocked for a while, right? Yet he was slapped into the ground by Yi Tianyun. No one knew if he was dead or alive. The terrifying power made them shiver. What kind of level did he have to be able to kill him in one move? Hula. The Palace Master of the Black and White Palace flew out of the crater. He was in a sorry state, and the black and white clothes he was wearing were in tatters. The previously insufferably arrogant and awe-inspiring black-white palace master now looked so laughable. Not only were his clothes torn, there was blood at the corner of his mouth. His internal organs were displaced. Cough, cough, cough. Black-white palace master's eyes were filled with fear. He did not expect his full power attack to be slapped away. If not for his strong defense, he would have been killed in one move. How can he be so strong? Where did he come from? Is there such a strong person in this world? Black-white palace master was terrified. He felt that he was not facing a heaven god, but a god emperor. He has been careful in dealing with Yi Tianyun. After all, Yi Tianyun is a person who can crush a large number of elders. He would be a fool if he was not vigilant. Hence, he used all his strength and mobilized the core power of Black-White Palace. All of them were at least at the level of a half-step god emperor. He was confident that he could suppress everything. As long as it was not a god emperor, he could kill him. Yi Tianyun walked over step by step. He was surprised. Oh, your defense is not bad. High-grade heaven god spiritual treasure and many god seal amulets. No wonder you didn't die in one move. His palm wasn't a casual slap either. Similarly, he had used a lot of strength in it. It was a combined attack from 100 half-step god emperors. The power was not weak. But he still failed to kill Black-White Palace Master. It showed how thick his skin was. The Black-White Palace Master quickly jumped up and looked at him warily. Friend, how did our Black-White Divine Palace offend you? I don't remember our Black-White Divine Palace provoking someone like you. The Palace Master of Black-White Palace didn't attack. Instead, he started to converse with Yi Tianyun. His eyes kept scanning the area masters behind Yi Tianyun. They were all elites he had never seen before. Oh, still friends? Yi Tianyun smiled. Sure enough, only when one was powerful would they communicate with someone of equal status. Why didn't your Black-White Divine Palace provoke me? I just wanted to exchange for some yin-yang cores, but you said you wanted to kill me or capture me. You really are quite impressive. I didn't want to make such a big fuss, but you want to kill me directly. You guys are really overbearing. After the Black-White Palace Master heard this, he cursed in his heart, cursing his subordinates for being a bunch of idiots. He roughly knew what was going on. His subordinates were too arrogant, which led to this situation. He had provoked such a great god, and so many elders had died, but he was so sullen that he wanted to kneel. Right now, he wanted nothing more than to revive the guards who had caused trouble, and then ruthlessly tear them apart. Otherwise, it would be difficult to resolve the hatred in his heart. Misunderstanding, it's all a misunderstanding. This is all because the elders didn't discipline them well, which led to this result. I already understand the overall situation. Since it's this kind of problem, I hope I can make up for it. Basically, you can take any core you want. As long as you like a treasure or a core, you can take it. Treat it as your compensation. The Black-White Palace Master's attitude changed. He actually became so friendly. He no longer spoke ill of Yi Tianyun, nor did he point his sword at him. He knew that he was no match for Yi Tianyun, so he could only choose to compromise. So many elders had died. This kind of grievance and bitterness, he could only grit his teeth and swallow it. The Black-White Palace Master's compromise made the cultivators below look at each other. Was this the Black-White Palace Master they knew? He actually compromised with an outsider. Was this the Black-White Palace Master's style? They were all stunned. This meant that Yi Tianyun's strength was really incomparably powerful. Even the Black-White Palace Master gave way. Yi Tianyun pointed to the ground and said with a faint smile, "It's very simple. I want the 8th rank yin-yang core below. It's that simple." The Black-White Palace Master's face darkened. His expression was very ugly. "Friend, you've gone too far. Other than that, you can't take anything else. You said that I can take any core. As long as I like it, I can take it. Now, I just want this yin-yang core under my feet. Other than that, I don't want anything else." Yi Tianyun grinned. The Black-White Palace Master's face turned black and white. It really matched the title of Black-White Palace Master. His expression constantly changed between black and white. How could it not be similar? Other than that, you can take anything else. The black-white palace master gritted his teeth. Friend, don't be too greedy. Although your strength is not bad, if we really fight, it's really hard to say who will win. The black-white palace master even threatened. He was not only afraid of Yi Tianyun, but also the group of region masters behind Yi Tianyun. They were all alone. If they really fought, they would not be easy to deal with. Other than this 8th grade yin-yang core, can I take anything else? Yi Tianyun asked with a smile. After the cultivators heard this, they shook their heads and sighed. It seemed that in the end, Yi Tianyun still chose to compromise. Originally, it seemed that he could still flatten the black-white palace. Now, it seemed that he chose to compromise. Either he was afraid of the black-white palace, or they were evenly matched and not easy to deal with. The black-white palace master's expression eased slightly. He nodded lightly. Yes, other than this 8th grade core, you can take anything else. The most precious thing here was the 8th grade yin-yang core. The rest were only considered ordinary. In order to invite this god away, he was still willing to pay a high price. After Yi Tianyun left, he would think about it further. All right, I want your life. How about that? Yi Tianyun pointed at the black-white palace master and smiled. The black-white palace master was stunned. He immediately said angrily, "You tricked me." "I didn't trick you. You said that other than the 8th grade core, you can take everything else. I want your life now. I don't want anything else." Yi Tianyun smiled faintly. "As long as you come over and commit suicide in front of me, I will let the black-white palace go." When he said this, everyone was in an uproar. They thought that Yi Tianyun would choose to compromise. Now, it seemed that this was not the case at all.